Did it again. What number is this? Oh, 36. All
Yeah,
right.
it's 36.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Milsurp World podcast, the podcast all about military surplus, the original podcast about military surplus. This is episode number 36.
There's other
and
ones?
we're, yes, there are other ones now. But we're here today.
Imitations.
Yeah, imitations, pretty much. We're here today with Aaron. Say hello, Aaron.
Hello,
Trying
Aaron.
to do this differently. Jared.
Hello.
And Tom, a.k.a. Lockbars, is on here.
Hello.
A Patreon member guest. I'm glad we could finally have Tom on. We've been talking about it for probably months.
Yeah, you keep inviting me. I keep not being able to be on, so I'm glad I can finally be on. It's been my fault.
Yeah, well, glad you could get on. I have a list here right in front of me of people that Patreon members that are going to get on the show eventually. Rule is if they've already been on, then they kind of go to the bottom. First timers higher priority. But if you'd like to get on the show, consider supporting us on Patreon. That's the only reason why you're listening to this. With that shameless plug out of the way, today our topic is we don't have a topic. We're just going to talk about stuff. I think we're going to start out. We haven't really done this. We got out of the practice of asking our guests. I guess maybe we haven't had a guest in a while. I don't remember doing it.
We haven't had any new people on in a while.
Yeah. So this is good. So Tom, how did you get into military surplus?
Well, I've always been interested in history, and that kind of got me into firearms. I was like, oh, I can buy these as like a piece of history, because I didn't grow up with guns. Like my grandfather had guns, my dad didn't like guns, and that's probably why I'm obsessed with them. I was into World War II, especially just history in general, and yeah, that's pretty much how it started.
Yeah, very similar to me too. I got into history, got into World War II history, started reading books about World War II, and then I realized, like, wait, you can like buy guns from World War II? Like, those are just out there? Like, yeah.
And at first I was like, oh, well, now I can buy these, but I didn't have any money. So, and then by the time I had enough money, they started going up in price. But
yeah.
And I had the pretty much the same gateway rifle everybody else got for their first one. It was a Mosin Nagant with all the stuff for $150.
Yeah.
Oh,
Man,
1943
you could get like a 9130, a crate of ammo pouch, bayonet for $150 or something.
All covered in authentic Cosmoline.
Oh yes, and totally authentic period correct shellac.
Don't get me started, Danny.
From India? Anyways,
Yeah.
I'll get you started.
So what is your favorite Milsurp now?
This one took a little bit of consideration because I finally got a lapel, and I've been wanting one for a while, but it's not my favorite. I think my favorite, partially because of the story, which, with every gun, you kind of like remember where you were when you got it, but it's an M1D, and it's papered, the CMP. And it's a M1D combo. I went there, it was like a snowstorm, because I'm close enough to the North Store where I can drive there. So nobody was there. And I still didn't know very much about Garands. And then the guy's like, hey, you should go check out that back rack there. They have like national matches and like a few of these. And they kind of told me what they were. And there were like 3 M1D combos left. So I picked up one of those. And I actually got a 6 million serial number Garand, which is one of the last ones that were made by one of the USGI manufacturers. I don't know. It's fun to shoot. They're hard to come by. It's a neat story. I know they're more used like, apparently more like Vietnam. I don't think they caught Korea. If they did, it was at the very end, but they're just neat rifles, and it's hard to find one that's not faked or put together.
Yeah, I can imagine.
For those of us that are uninformed, because I don't know, what is an M1D?
It's basically like there were, again,
D
like
stand for.
Actually,
D's.
well, it came after C.
D's
Yeah,
nuts.
I don't know.
I got it. We got it, Danny. We knew it. We knew it. We all knew it.
I don't know as much about like the so-called sniper variants, even though it's really probably more of like a DMR rifle. But there's like an earlier version that actually this is I think the version that Garand as they say it like made, and then they had another version they wanted to use. But it's basically it's just got a scope mount. It's like a 2.2 power scope, and then it has a cheek rest. There's two flash hiders. One is like I forget what one's like a prong, the other one's like a cone. And they ended up taking a lot of those off because they found that like it actually inhibited accuracy. So a lot of them, I guess, in theater they took them off. Was that answer the question?
Yeah,
It's
I think so.
sniper.
I'm not surprised that an M1 is your favorite or an M1D is your favorite, being that you are Tom, aka Lockbars on Discord. So I figured you're the M1 guy.
I figured I couldn't use like my old AIM name from like high school, so I was like, I need to have something. I was like, all right, what do I like? Well, I always look for Lockbars on Grands for some reason. It's like, okay, I'll be Lockbars.
Yeah, when I see M1s like at a show or whatever, I always look for Lockbars too. It's a good sign.
Yeah, it's like,
what's your throat erosion?
Yeah. Oh man.
The muzzle wear.
Yeah, well, T and E or what is it? ME and T or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like as if for most of us, like the difference between a 1 and 2 is going to make much of a difference.
Well, it's the only. Maybe you can explain this. Why is it the only gun that's sold that people actually care about, like how perfect the barrel is?
I guess
like
I can tell you. I can tell you my theory.
Okay, let's hear it first.
Does the Cmp give out that information for each rifle?
Yes.
That's where that shit came from. It's because they give out that it's because they give out that information. People were like, "This must be valuable information."
I sold an M1
as a pass a bullet test with anything else.
Yeah, well, like that's the thing. Like I sold an M1, and I was just like, "Here's an M1 for sale," and everyone was like, "What's the like tire kickers?" But they want to know the erosion. What's the throat erosion? And it's like, well, I don't know, but it shoots. Like what do you want? Like but no other gun ever that I've ever sold does everybody ask about that. It's like just M1s that it's just
most like the few people that actually have those gauges will show you, but most people can just take an M2 ball around and like, okay, you can kind of guess based on how much the bullet it eats. So yeah, that's pretty much why. Because like you said, if you buy a K98K, no one's going to ask for the muzzle wear.
Yeah. I mean, there's some beat up jank K98Ks out there that have been used in like 4 wars. And
the only thing similar, I would think, would be if somebody asks if your M9130 is counterboard.
Right.
Similar, yeah. And it's funny because
I was going to add real quick.
Go ahead.
I want to touch on what we're on the M1D about, because I see people always like buying them and wanting to buy them or for sale ads and stuff, and I'll see one that looks like the cheek pad is like the wrong color, and I guess there's probably a little bit of a variance, but if you see one that's like looks like Circus Peanuts, it's probably a reproduction one, because you just from looking at them you kind of get an idea of what the color looks like, and like sometimes you're like, oh well, I bought one, but did it have papers? Well, then also on top of that, like because they can just put them together, the papers can be faked too, so you have to make sure, like, does the barrel have the right drawing number on it? So like there's just a lot that goes into buying them, and a lot of places you can get ripped off, just like with the cartouches.
They're not cheap either, right?
No, I paid $2,800 for mine, and it was the combo. I think on auctions, they're going for like $5-6 grand, maybe more. I don't know exactly where they're at right now.
We always tell everybody too, do your research, especially if you're going to spend that kind of money.
Well, and a lot of people would just buy the rifle, like, because you can just at the CMP you can just buy an M1D rifle. It's got the mount, not the mount, but it's got all the what is it? It's not drilled to it, but it's got like the thing where you can put the scope mount on it, and then they'll go get parts for it, whether they're repro or real, and they just add them to it, and all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, this is an M1D, but really all they bought was like the rifle.
Yeah. Now I want Circus Peanuts though, since you mentioned peanuts colors. I know you either love them or hate them, and I don't know why I like them.
So those are the orange peanuts?
Yeah, those big spongy peanuts.
I love them.
Oh yeah, I love eating styrofoam, especially when it's bright orange
and mushy.
Yeah, they're good.
Well, like you got to feel them. Like once you become like an aficionado of the Circus Peanuts, you get the bag. Like you go into like Cabela's or whatever they sell them. You can kind of squeeze them in the bag, and if they have just like a little bit of give to them, like a nice cigar, then they're good. But if they're like hard, just pass.
Sometimes I'll forget what they taste like, and I'll like, oh, I'm gonna get some Circus Peanuts. I have one. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't need any more of these.
Candy corn, same thing.
Yeah, I'm not a candy corn guy.
What about Peeps?
No.
See, I don't like marshmallow.
I love Peeps. I'm the only one. Okay, moving on.
We usually ask also what everybody's most recent purchase is, right?
Oh yeah, let's do recent additions.
I bought a pickup.
Oh yeah, Aaron's been adulting.
Yeah,
that's Jared.
I bought a pickup. So
that's Jared.
Sorry.
Yeah, I can't buy any guns because I had to buy that.
Well, that's less fun.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, the used car market is garbage right now.
I bought it new.
It's only garbage if you're...
both cars markets are garbage right now.
Yeah.
It's not garbage if you're selling.
Yeah.
Well, Danny or Aaron?
Aaron, I bet it's going to be really shocking to know what recent gun you got.
I don't know. What would you mean? Oh, I bought a K98K. Just kidding. I bought another M95.
And this is number
10.
20. Oh, 10.
10.
Okay.
Double digits. I actually bought it from Tom.
Does that officially make you a pattern collector then?
I think when you have 2 or 3, I think it makes you a pattern collector.
Okay.
At this point, it thinks I'm a hoarder.
Well, you know about them. You know, you wanted an AOI. Is that like the main reason you wanted it?
Yes. I don't have that one.
Is that the Ethiopian one?
It's not necessarily Ethiopian. It's Italian East Africa, so it's Italian colonies.
I don't remember what the AOI actually is. What is it, like Africa Oriental
Italianes?
Italian, yeah, something like that.
I don't speak spaghetti.
Yeah, that one. If you read this is why I tell people to read the Mannlicher books that are in English with a grain of salt, because I can't remember which book it is. It might be the Scarletta book, because it says that marking is Greek. It's not Greek.
I just bought that book. I'll have to check.
That's why I don't trust no books unless there's big pictures.
The Scarletta book is okay, but he gets some stuff wrong.
Well, I wanted to know about Dutch M95s or 1895s, however you refer to them, and it covers it a little bit, but it's like, oh, there's nothing on here I couldn't get on the internet.
Yeah, they're not. Those are not as well documented, unfortunately. I don't those because somebody asked me on Reddit if I was going to collect those, and I said I wasn't a crazy person.
That was me that asked you at that. I think.
Was it?
Or at least you mentioned that when I mentioned them.
Because God, that would be a nightmare.
There's a lot of them things.
Yeah, the long rifles are a little easier because there's like the Army version, the Navy version, and then there's like the KNIL, like the Indonesian ones.
I've seen one of those in person.
The Indonesian one?
Yep.
Was it like pretty beat up?
I would say mediocre in terms of overall.
They were, it's a harsh environment, and they were around for a while.
It didn't have the communist star on it.
I see a few of them that have like the little like brass plaque thing, and it's like got unit marks on it. I see a few of those, and I think the handguard's a little different. Other than that, I don't know too many other ways to distinguish them.
Yeah, I've not seen too many Dutch M95s in person. Danny's got one, right, Danny?
Yep, I just got the one to check the box.
Yep, I did the same exact thing.
You've got the bicycle carbine, right?
I do. It's either bicycle or cavalry. I think it's a bicycle one though, but they're
weird. It's got that weird wood block on the side of the magazine.
Yeah, it's got the wood magazine
and that's
side.
harder to find, right? Because didn't one of the importers like mess with some of that stuff, take them off or take handguards off if they didn't just break off or whatever?
I didn't hear about an importer doing it, but I'm just assuming people do because it's probably weird, like because it's only on one side. Were you gonna say something, Jared?
I have the same rifle as you with the wood on the side. That's all. We have the same model, whichever one it is.
Did they extend M95s, Dutch M95s?
What do you mean?
Well, there was a period of time in the U.S. when they had to be a certain barrel length, and there were some rifles that ended up with extensions on them, right?
No, the only one that I'm aware of was extended is the Swede Carbines.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of those 303 ones have like a muzzle brake or compensator or something on them. I don't know the story behind that, but the 303 converted one.
Seen them, yeah, with something on them.
I don't know why. Again, if I had a book that I could read that had that information I could learn, I guess I could just do a Google search.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I only got this Dutch because I needed one to check the box. Also, it had the wood side, which I thought, the wood magazine cover's cool, and then the clearing rod. If a rifle's got all this stuff and it had dies, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to get it. That was one of those Washington gun show scores, man.
Yeah, we did exactly the same thing for exactly the same reasons.
Yep. You have the dies now, I think.
I do have the dice.
Yeah,
they're in my table.
Nice.
They're marked for you. They're your dice.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Recent additions. Is that, or were you done, Aaron?
Yeah, it's my 10th M95. It's an AOI. I forget, Tom. Is it carbine, right?
Nope. It's a full length 8x50.
Sweet. Yes. That's be my third long rifle then, and the second one in 8x50.
Yeah. Well, I just picked up an M95, so it's also an 8x50.
You just picked up a different M95.
Yeah. Full length rifle. Apparently, according to you, because you're the person that knows the most of these that I know, it's seen Czech use.
Oh, that one. Yeah, it is. It had Czech district, military district assignments on it.
I'm guessing it just kind of like when the Austro-Hungarian Empire disintegrated, just kind of like, okay, this is here now, and then they just stamped it. And
yeah, so the basic story of it is that when the Austro-Hungarian Empire disintegrated, Czechoslovakia ended up with a lot of Austro-Hungarian arms, and Poland did too. Czechoslovakia was still trying to figure out what the heck they were going to do for their military, so they were like, okay, we'll just use the stuff we have. So they issued M95s, both long and short and carbines, and then they also had BR&O make around 5,000 receivers, which is the only receivers made at a different facility other than Steyr or Budapest or FEG. So those are very rare, and I have one. But
I was about to ask, did they make them after World War One?
Yes. So the Czechoslovakian ones, the BR&O ones, were made post World War One. No other M95 receiver was made post World War One. Those were all anything dated post World War One is basically just combining stuff together, because basically Steyr and FEG were gutted by the Treaty of post World War One. Both countries were gutted in terms of military strength, so they could not produce more than 1,000 small arms a year, and that included assembly. So there was no reason to actually produce anything, so they just assembled leftover parts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, there's a little intro thing there, but yeah, Tom's one that he showed me is really neat because you can trace its history. The Czechoslovakian ones are neat because you can trace their history. Typically, you can see them be assigned to Austro-Hungarian use and then go to Czech use, and then most of the time they ended up in Bulgaria. That one he has did not. At least as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have that shellac or whatever, like that coating, whatever they put. I don't know what the Bulgarians put on it. It doesn't have that. It hasn't been refinished that I can tell.
Typically, Tom, what you'll look for is a bunch of stamps. The Bulgarians love to stamp stuff.
Yeah, the only thing that's on there seems to be there's no S, of course. There's a Polish unit mark. From what I thought, maybe it's Austro-Hungarian unit mark, but it appears to be Polish, like a Polish infantry mark. Regiment, I think they might have marked it by, I'm not sure. But it's cool.
Mm-hmm. It's very rare for most of the Czech ones to not have gone into Bulgarian use.
And that one, I believe it was Austro-Hungarian because it's got those little K, Austro-Hungarian acceptance stamps, right? Isn't that what the K is for?
The K is inspection marks, and unless it's on the bolt head and the bolt body, then it's got a different reading, which is great and not confusing at all.
Listen, we only got one stamp. All right, we got to put it in different places. That way we can
it's the same stamp too. Like it's the same size, same font, and it's like, what the heck?
Look, Carl's been making stamps for 30 years, and he only knows how to make a K. All right,
There are different stamps that do appear on the bolt head and bolt body, but that has to do with headspace. Anyway, Danny, what'd you buy?
Man, in January I bought some modern pistols. That doesn't really count. December I bought my third Type 14 Nambu. It's like a rig.
Third.
Yeah, I have three now.
I think I've seen this one.
It's the main. It's just slightly earlier than my earliest one because it's got the grip serrations, like the little grooves cut in the grip go all the way up to the top instead of like mine kind of stopped. It came. I walk into the gun show like first thing on Saturday, like I try to do, and just bam, right in the case facing the front door. There's two Nambus and like two holsters and everything. So I'm just like, oh geez, and I tell them to open up the case and look at them, and one of them, the nicer pistol, happened to come with a holster, and it's one of those like rubber infused canvas holster, like after they kind of went away from leather. Yeah, and it was in great shape. The canvas and everything was still it looks really new. Like it's in good shape, and then it had the cleaning rod and it had a spare firing pin in the pouch still, which I thought was really cool because those things are expensive. I've seen what they go for on eBay and stuff. So and the pistol was great shape. It was all matching. The magazine matched. It came with a spare magazine in the holster, and I was like, okay, like this. So I had to do it. I wasn't expecting to.
Does the spare magazine match?
It doesn't. No, I wish it did, but no.
There's one thing in that book I remember learning, like so you'd have like the last, was it 2 or 3 of the serial number on the magazine that matched the frame of the gun, and the one with the dot above it is the spare. The one without the dot is the actual like the matching first magazine, I guess I could call it. And the one matching with the dot above it is the spare.
They did it like the Germans. Then they used a plus.
Yeah, the Germans did a plus.
Huh. Same concept. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So do you remember what year it is? Yours, does it have like the early
40? I think it's a 43, but it's just early in the year, I think.
Okay, so it's like the larger one.
It's over on the wall across the room from me. But yeah. I was happy to get it. That book, I got the first one, and I never thought I'd be really into Type 14s, but there's just something funky about them that is just kind of cool.
Oh, weird, Danny. You always make fun of me for liking weird shit.
That you can't shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did we say at the beginning, guys? A pattern collector is 3 or more?
I'm not sure where that line is, but I wasn't planning on buying it. I was fine with because I had like the mid-war, I have another 43, and then I have the 45 made one. So I kind of have like a mid-war, example, then like a super last-ditch Type 14, and I was okay with that. But then I saw this one, I just had to. So I just add up, the price of the accessories and everything in good shape. So,
what's really funny is when I started talking to Danny, he did not want to own pistols. He thought that they were dumb.
Dude, it wasn't that far. Man, I was on the podcast earlier on the podcast. I didn't give a crap about Milsurp pistols, dude. I just was like, nope, I just like rifles, not into pistols at all. And that's weird, man. I don't know what's happening. It's happening to me. But I'm getting into...
you're on a 32 kick, too.
Yeah, I'm still kind of on a 30 kick. Yeah, I just bought a 32 pistol. I just sent the payment out like yesterday, I think, for it. So hopefully I'll get it later this week, early next week.
But it's modern.
Nope. Nope. I just can't wait to get my hands on this PP. I ordered a Walther PP.
Oh, just a PP?
Yeah, it's not a PPK. It's a PP. They made the PP first, I believe, and then pretty sure they made the PP first, and then they came up with the PPK later on.
That was one of the ones we were looking at when I was at your house, right? The ones that at the shop that it had been like modified.
I can't remember if they had one at the shop.
No, it wasn't at the one, your honey hole. It was at a different place. And you were looking at it, and you were like, oh, crap, they restamped it.
That was the 38H.
Okay. I always confused that.
Man, I almost bought that 38H until I looked at the bottom of it. Because it's funny, because like a year ago, that was kind of a high price, but now like 38Hs have gone up a lot. So probably a pretty good price now.
Even with it being restamped?
I don't know. I'd have to look at it again to see. But Yeah, the 38H, the Sauer 38H was kind of a response to the Walther PP. Like that was their kind of copying the Walther PP pattern. And I've always liked PPs more than PPKs. I think PPKs are just like a little bit too small. The larger, especially being blowback, I think it's, straight blowback. I think the PP, the larger frame and size and everything, it's a little bit more manageable. Like not like 32 kicks, but like blowback pistols can be snappy. It's kind of weird.
People mentioned that when you sent me that slow-mo video of your pistols that you took out in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned that it was like, wow, those are really snappy.
Yeah, that's the thing. You could get like a PPK that's 380 and shoot it next to just like any kind of subcompact or like a Glock 19 and 9mm, and you think like, oh, a heavy steel 380 versus a light 9mm. The light 9mm is going to kick more, but it's like no, that straight blowback pistol is snappy. Like they just got a little. And the actions blow, like they shoot so fast. It's crazy because when you look at me shooting the rifle in slow motion, that's the same speed. I think it's 960 frames a second. It's the same speed, and the rifle looks like nice and slow motion. You can kind of see everything going on. But then the pistols, it's like, you blink and you miss half the the action working because they're so fast because they just go straight back. They're just blowback.
So
there's no like unlock.
If you had to carry one, which one would you prefer, the PP or the 38H? Like you're soldier in World War II, like which one would you want?
I think I would do a late no safety 38H. That's what I would do. Because the very towards the end of the war they stopped. They kind of went back. Originally, Sauer 38s didn't have a safety, and they added the safety when they changed the name to 38H. Because the military wanted a slide mounted safety on their guns. The German military wanted safety on all their guns, and so they kind of demanded a safety from Walther. So they put one on it. People think the H on 38 stands for H for the hammer, and I think I even said that in my early video, but actually I found out it's not true. It stands for either safety, like a German word for safety that starts with an H. I forgot the exact one. Or it stands for Heer, which is German Army, HEER. But I think I would take a safetyless 38H, because then you just got a nice smooth slide. It's a double action, single action. It's got a cocker, decocker. That's a lot like carrying, because way back in the day I carried a 226, so I kind of got used to the single action, double action.
Yeah, that was my first handgun. It's still my favorite. And when I got a 38H, I was like, oh, this looks familiar.
Yeah,
it has a decocker.
Yep. Yeah, it goes all the way back to the 38H. It's pretty cool.
New.
Yeah, it's really not. That's honestly what made me want to get it. A guy had one at a gun show, a friend of mine, and he's like, hey, it's got a decocker, so decock it. And I was like, so decock the hammer, and he's like, now do it again. And it had more resistance, but it cocked the hammer back, and I was like, what? It was so funky and cool. I was like, okay, I have to have one, and I eventually got it from him. But yeah, I would take that. And the shrouded hammer, I like the encapsulated, hammer. It's kind of neat. Doesn't snag on anything. That's what in Sauer's advertisement. That's actually what they advertise the gun as, because the hammer is enclosed. You don't have to worry about it like snagging on clothing and stuff like that. I actually carried a 38H, like pocket carried one for like a couple days, just to get a feel for it.
Now that was meant to be carried originally like with a holster, right?
Probably.
Because I know like the PP was like, you think it's like, oh, it's like pocket size, but that was meant to be carried in a holster, right?
Yeah.
I think, I'm not sure with the 38 of how that was meant to be carried initially. Oh, and there was a 36 too before the 38. There was a 36 that was a smaller size. I think that was PPK size, and it was too small. And then they made the Sauer 38, which was slightly bigger. It's like the Walther PP size. And then the Army Crystal Hammer's the 38H. A lot of people don't know that, but I only know that because I bought the Sauer books that like you can't find anywhere. I forgot who. It's over on my shelf across the room. But there's like a volume 1 and volume 2, and the volume 1s are like $500 if you find them. But I lucked up into a copy. But I got it after I did my 38H video, so I should probably do one correcting my own misinformation, because I hate misinformation.
Did you get anything else?
No, that's it. The PP. I'm just waiting to get my hands on that PP.
Is that a giggity?
Yeah, so I have a Johnson and a PP that I get
All
to
right.
play with now. So I just need
You're right,
another gun euphemism.
I guess. Am I the only one that hasn't shared like recent pickups? Other than
Yeah, what's your recent additions?
Well, besides the M95 would be the Dutch 1895. That's the Army version, which I pretty much I don't think there's much else to tell. Other than it had the cleaning rod, which I guess is really uncommon. So I grabbed. And a lot of them it's got a mismatched bolt, which I maybe seen one that has had a matched bolt. They seem to the cartouches or stock stamp, whatever you want to call it. They always seem to be pretty well struck and still there mostly, and I like those, so that's cool. Let's see. The other one was I got a Russian Capture K98K because I just, it's like a shooter. It was, in some fashion in the Eastern Front. So that's got some history to it. I like those, and I think we're talking on the Discord about how those have kind of gained in popularity, and they've definitely gone up in price. They used to be like
that's because the
all
cost
German stuff, man.
That's because the cost difference between the K98Ks and the Russian Capture K98Ks has driven out the snobby elitism that used to be keeping the cost separate.
Yeah, I think people are recognizing too, like, hey, this was in some fashion on the Eastern Front, and that's cool in its own right.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
But Danny, remember, don't use Turk ammo in it.
Oh yeah, that Turk ammo.
We're just gonna trigger Sam.
Yeah. No, everyone, especially after Ian's video, everyone gives the same advice. Don't shoot Turk ammo; it'll crack your stock. And I think Ian said it one time in a video.
He did.
But I'm pretty sure I've shot quite a bit of Turk ammo back in the day, and don't have any cracked stocks.
I actually shot mine the other day with Ecuadorian ammo, and it shot pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's good stuff. I think that Ecuadorian ammo is good.
Some of the primers don't go on the first hit.
I've never shot a K98.
It's like shooting.
That's why, probably why you collect them 95s.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Danny.
Gotta shoot the Cadillac of bolt actions.
He would shoot one.
Whoa. It's a little less exciting though, because it just kind of like
works every time.
It works every time, and it's just accurate, and all that boring stuff. Don't get any fully bolt actions.
I might be wrong. Don't they have sort of like a wide, like acceptable MOA or something? I remember seeing some videos on that. I mean, I don't know anything about K98Ks. Probably not any worse than most other World War II rifles, I would guess.
It's not. Standard bolt action K98K, I believe, was 5 inches at 100. That's me remembering. That's not me reading out of a book.
Yeah, I remember the accuracy standard the soldiers were held to, but I don't know if that is directly correlated to what the rifle was capable of, or if that's just what the soldier was capable of.
Maybe. They're not pinpoint rifles.
I saw. Oh, man, there's a guy on YouTube, like he was one of the OG gun tubers, and all he did was just do like crazy long range shooting. Like he'd shoot SMLEs and stuff all day, like out to 1,000 yards or whatever, because he lived out in the desert. And I remember I think he just put a scope on a random K98K, and he just started nailing something like that was like ridiculously far away, like 1,500 yards or something like that. And so I got the impression from that like your average K98K is maybe capable of it, but I don't know if he just got lucky.
So that's it for the pickups, I guess. I did want to add one thing if I could. I think one of the guys on Discord wanted me to mention it about, I guess a lot of people already know this, but some don't, about like trying to find an M1 Garand that's like all original, as they say. Do we want to get into this or?
Yeah.
It's all matching.
All matching M1.
Yep.
And and also like sometimes people want to just swap out parts, but sometimes they don't realize that, maybe there was a time, Winchester used Springfield barrels for a time. So someone might just take that Springfield barrel off of there, but that's what it came out of the factory with. Or, HRA, I think, used LMR barrels for a time. And it doesn't mean it's not original to the rifle, but people just switch them out. And then also, like, You know what? I wanted to mention this too because this is a neat Garand that I have that people might want to hear about. It's a PBS rebuild. Is anybody familiar with that? I think I mentioned it on the Discord before.
PBS, is that Italian?
Yeah, well, it is not Italian, but it was in Italy. It stands for Peninsula Base Station, and it was like, I don't know what echelon it was, but it was basically battlefield picked up rifles, and they would, be in charge of making sure they were functional and putting them back in the field. But the rifle is stamped PBS like 44. It's in Italy, and it's one of the ways you could tell that that rifle is actually there in 1944. And one of the guys on the Discord has OBS, which is Brisbane, I think, in the Pacific. I don't know the specific story on that, but this one Garand, you can tell like it was in Italy in 1944. It was likely picked up off a battlefield in some capacity to be reinspected. So like that's another way, and they're out there. They're not. I don't see them very often, but it's marked on the barrel. It says like PBS, a little dash, and like a 0 or a O and 44. So I just thought that's something neat that people that like Garands might like to know.
Huh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I had no idea really. I don't know why. I've never gotten into American rifles that much. Like the M1 was my first.
Cost for me.
Yeah, cost is a big part of it.
Maybe I'm not sure. I've just never been into them, which I feel like is a shame. Like as a red-blooded American, I should like American guns, but
although
it just never.
I say cost, but the two most expensive guns I've ever purchased are American.
See, there you go.
I say cost. Navy? Yeah, the Lee Navy and my Krag.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, there's only like 5 rifles. Like, I mean, unless you like pattern collect, like there's the M1, the 03, this 1917, the Krag, and the Trapdoor.
Well, you get. Well, I guess
Carbine.
You could get carbine 03 A3. I guess if you want to take that off of the 03, but it's still an 03, I guess.
That's still 7, and I can name more than 7 countries that had a Mauser of any capacity. So basically, it's like a limited thing that you could easily get them all, and then what? We
then
gotta
you
waste
gotta
our
get
money
a Johnson.
on something. Yeah, we gotta waste our money on something. So
and the Lee Navy. The neat thing with Garands, I think, is like people are like, oh, I'm just going to get a Garand, and they're like, okay, I want one that's from World War II, okay, and then they want all the 4 USGI manufacturers, and then they want like, I don't know, you want a 6 million one, and then you want a pre-Pearl Harbor, and people just go down the rabbit hole. But that's where it comes from, like with Garands, I think, because then you get people that end up with like 80 of them. They have one, or they have one that I knew one guy that had one for like every month of the war.
Dude, I was at a gun show about 12 years ago or something in Tallahassee. I was working at the show, and there was a guy at the table next to me who had about 20 M1s on his table, and he was just like he was the M1 guy, the M1 rifle guy. He was always looking for it. And some guy walked into the show trying to sell an M1, like just a random guy. And he forked over like $5,000 for this rifle, or just something crazy like that. And I just remember being like, "What?" Like he just willingly was like, "I'll give you $5,000 for that," something like that.
Oh crap!
Like he knew something, or he wasn't thinking.
Yeah, he knew something about it, which that was kind of what opened my eyes to like, okay, I guess there's something to these. Like there's something special about some of them versus others.
Well, I've seen them at shows. It'll just like all correct. And I can just look at it. It's like, that's not correct, because some of it's not even just like the drawing number. Sometimes it's like the shape of the parts. Like, does it have this bevel here? Like or is like a milled handguard clip versus a stamped one. Like there's just lots of these little things that you can pick out, and they just like label it correct. And somebody's like, oh, it's correct. Okay, cool. Here's my money.
We've been joined by someone.
Oh boy.
I don't know if he's just listening.
He's he's pleading the fifth right now, I guess.
Yeah.
I thought you guys were live. You didn't want me interrupted.
No, we're live.
Oh, no.
We are live. Yeah.
This is not a professional endeavor, Othais. This is not professional.
Are you live or are you recording live?
I'm recording.
Oh, okay. That's good. So I can just say obscenities then, right?
I don't care.
Okay, cool.
I'm not going to get canceled. I don't have Twitter.
I wasn't listening before. I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
We were talking about M1s.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
M1s. Yeah.
That's literally everything, though, so I don't know which M1.
Yeah, the helmet, the tank, the gun, the rifle, the carbine. Yeah. I was gonna ask you, Tom, being a M1 guy. Where do you fall on this Garand versus Garand nomenclature?
I had a feeling you were to
pronunciation
ask me.
debate? Yeah.
I say Garand just because like that's what people always called it, and I don't realize the guy's name was Garand, but and I remember years ago there was some lady on CNN and she was English and she was like, you don't say Afghanistan, it's Afghanistan, and I was like, you just sound kind of, you just want to hold something over people when you say it. And I realize some people want to say it. I don't really care. Like if you say it quickly, it doesn't even really make much of a difference. Um, I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. Like you just call it what you want. But he was in the U.S. when he created the rifle, and there's just so many people that say Garand. It's like, what's the difference?
Yeah. There's been sort of like a modern. There's been like a modern revision now, and I noticed some people, like if you call it a Garand, they kind of like put their nose up at you a little bit, like, oh, you don't call it the new accepted gun.
Yeah.
Gun. Like it's like a Milsurp dogma or something like that.
On the flip side, though, if you call it a Garand, they look at you like you have 9 heads.
Oh yeah, because they
don't know.
Yeah, the random dude at a gun show.
Yeah,
like, Garand. What?
Yeah.
What'd you call me?
You can call it a Garand to me, like, and correct me if you say actually first. Then I'll be like, okay.
Actually, it's pronounced.
I watched a YouTube video, so Garand.
Yeah.
I watched YouTube, so I kind of know a thing or two.
Since we're talking about it, and Othais wasn't here for this question, Othais, how many rounds does an M1 magazine hold?
M1 rifle.
Which one? I'm so confused now. Which M1 are we talking about?
M1 rifle.
M1 Garand.
Talking about the clip?
No, the magazine.
No, the magazine.
Oh, what are you talking about? If you force another one in over the clip? I'm confused. Where are we at?
How many rounds does the M1 rifle magazine hold?
The magazine? You could probably jam a bunch in there, but they're not going to feed.
It's 7. You can't overfeed it.
Yeah.
Danny's tried.
What? No, I'm talking about without a clip. Just shove a bunch of rounds.
Without a clip? Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Look, you guys were trying to be highly technical there, so I'm just trying to say.
I got a hammer out. I can fit 14, 15 of them things in there. I tell you what.
Put them in there. It's not going to get you anywhere, but go for it.
Oh, jeez.
Without the clip walls, has anybody tried? Go for it.
Dang, yeah, let's try it, Danny.
Yeah, I know.
I thought you guys were playing the clip versus magazine game, so I'm like, okay, well, without the clip, how many rounds could I fit in a Garand?
No, it's so. Danny, you explain it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's because of the M1 tips and tricks video. Everybody comments on it and is trying to correct me because at some points of the video I'm referring to the magazine, at some points I'm referring to the clip, and so everyone's like, it's a magazine, it's not a clip, or it's a clip, it's not a magazine, and the magazine holds 8. Everyone kind of corrects me in the comments on that video. So I've just developed this like pet peeve or something now. Where
I've never tried to thumb one down. Can you not thumb down the 8th one?
Nope.
I don't know why. I've just never tried to do that. Like I don't know why I would have needed to, but
yeah, I only did it because I don't like storing guns with one in the chamber. So the M1 was my go-to gun when I lived in Florida for shooting hogs. I shot quite a few hogs with it. And but I wanted to keep it loaded, like the magazine loaded, but not one in the chamber. I fiddled around with it.
How close is it to being able to do it? Is it like No Way Jose?
Yeah, it's no way Jose.
Like over half the cartridge?
Yeah, it's just a hard stop.
This is a challenge.
It's been a while since I've done it.
I'm gonna go push on it. I'm gonna find out.
Well, he had people. That's the part that
always. I've had people, challenge it, and then I'm like, go grab your gun and try it, and let me know.
I had this with the Remington Model 8. Because it's always like, is it 4 rounds or 5 rounds?
Yeah.
And everybody argues about it till they're blue in the face. And like,
I heard you mention that at the end of that clips video. I was like,
yeah, but I think it actually does vary though. Like people will be like, I cannot get a 5th round and close the bolt on mine without chambering it.
It just varies gun to gun.
Yeah, for some reason, I know that I have an FN 1900 and a Remington 8, and the 1900 fits 5 no problem. The 8 is like, you could really struggle to get a 5th one in there, but it's going to want a chamber. You know what I mean? Like, if you really hammered on it, you could probably do it, but I'm scared of breaking a spring.
That's weird. Is that just like a tolerances thing? They just didn't...
I've heard people say you got to go in there and flip this and do that and blah, and I've taken it apart and looked, and I have no clue. I think the whole episode is like, this should be a really easy question to answer, and then I never found an adequate answer for it.
Yep.
What was our next topic, Danny?
Just on the
Oh,
list
wait.
here.
You were gonna do a joke, weren't you?
Oh God. Yeah, it's a bad joke, dude. This is kind of a boomer joke. Boomer humor
That's
here.
all your jokes are.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Please do not hold me accountable for this joke. Found it on the internet. A guy walked into a crowded bar, waving his unholstered pistol and yelling, "I have a .45 caliber Colt 1911 with a 7-round magazine plus one in the chamber, and I want to know who's been sleeping with my wife." A voice from the back of the room called out, "You're going to need more ammo."
Okay.
This is a joke.
It's a joke. Didn't say it was a good one.
I thought
How
it
is
was
it that we all know it's a joke even though it didn't do the thing it's supposed to do?
make everybody laugh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the punchline was
giggled.
gonna be that it wasn't gonna chamber, or it wasn't gonna fire. It was gonna jam.
No, you had one in the chamber. That one would have.
Oh, that would have won him to fire. Then it would have jammed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my 1911 joke. How do you get a 1911 to jam? You shoot it.
Do you guys cut out all the dead air and you just leave it in? Because that's really
We
good.
cut it out.
We
You should leave it in. Just leave it cut. Like leave the one in right before I said that, so that people can understand.
yeah.
Just put in like TV show laughter.
There was one time that I forgot to cut it out, and Danny was like, "This is really weird."
Yeah. I think the program you use, Aaron, just like auto cuts out so many seconds of dead air.
Oh, that's
Oh.
interesting. I guess like over at Floodbusters they're doing that, but I think it's too aggressive on the attack. Or no, I'm thinking of no, it's This Week in Guns. That's what I'm thinking of.
So they're all
Mhm.
on top of each other.
No, it's like there's a natural bleed off for certain words, and then it doesn't happen, and you're like, ah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Aaron's got it tuned pretty good.
The system that I use, the program I use, it looks for a certain decibel level and then reduces it to a certain amount of time.
Yeah, it's got like a noise gate or whatever.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is then what if you're just like, and you want that in there? I probably just ruined this one.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, so if you were doing a World War II movie, would you call it the Garand or the Garand?
Ooh.
Mm.
And then if you were doing a World War II movie and you had to train the actors and everything, would you teach them to keep their fingers off the trigger?
See, there you go. That's the guy. That's the.
Because I've
Very correct. They didn't do that back then, right? So
I've been noticing that a lot lately in movies. It's like period films, and they'll have their fingers off the trigger, and I'm like,
Oh, dude.
well,
that's a
but John
big-
Moses Browning himself was like a trigger.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Dude, Stoner, Kalashnikov, all those guys posing with their guns, they all got finger on the
Yeah.
trigger.
they're like,
Yeah.
I know how to not pull it.
So that's the thing. So like as a World War II reenactor, I see that kind of stuff all the time at events where dudes are, keeping their finger off the trigger, or especially the hold. Like the way they have that like modern tactical low ready hold. Like they're holding their M1s that way, which like guys back then didn't do that. But like there's lots of those little sort of like modern pet peeves that bleed
You got
off.
a dude doing thumb over on an M1 carbine.
could you imagine correcting your World War II grandfather, veteran, like, it's Garand. Like,
Yeah.
could you just imagine, like, just like
That's a
backing
good
you?
point. It's like, yeah, you're
Like-
gonna
Like,
the,
hey, he's
the-
French Canadian. Like, shut up. This is America. That's probably what they.
yeah, the guy that killed Nazis with his M1 Grand calls it an M1 Grand. And it's like,
I
actually, sure.
doubt the guy cared. Like, I really doubt he cared at all. He was like, I got paid. Everybody's using it. Feeling pretty good.
Yeah, do you
I
think he
don't-
got
my
any
one-
royalties for the M14 Garand, or was he still around then? I don't even know when he died.
It depends on how many years for the patent.
Lived for quite a while, a couple decades, I think. What was the question about the M14?
Did he get royalties on it?
Oh, that I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I have to look it up.
I don't. He had an ice rink in his house, though. Apparently.
Well, that's something. He's Canadian,
That's
so
cool. Yeah.
it does kind of make
Canadian.
sense.
Anyway, I'm avoiding work, so I should probably go do work, I guess.
Well, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted.
No
It's fine.
problem.
I'm avoiding trying to write about the Thomson-Lagarde experiments.
Ooh.
Yeah, imagine trying to find a cute way of writing about that so all your fans don't just start vomiting in the comments.
Yeah.
No.
I might have ordered a stuffed animal cow.
Ah, very nice.
No, it's going to get creepy. There's no uncreepy way to do
Oh, I love it. I love it when you go creepy.
this. Yeah, this is going to be like double penguins.
Let's see. Alt history, I think, is next
Oh,
up.
alt history? Fun
Oh,
So
stuff.
I guess it was a weird thing that we mentioned at last show, and then I guess
Oh, yeah.
what's
And I
do we
triggered
have a-
everybody with my statement.
Well, most of the comments on the podcast was about like the alt history, like just discussing that. So I'll
Oh,
do
yeah.
it for I'll do it for the algorithm. Do it for them comments.
I was re-listening to it a bit, like today, just like that little part.
Oh.
And
Sorry, go
what?
ahead, Tom.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, like, I do think there was one part where the Germans could have won. You know, like that was when they were marching on Moscow. Like maybe if, again, this is all conjecture, and we have already established that it's not realistic. But at one point, I think when like some of Stalin's aides or like Molotov and some of them showed up to like ask him like, "What do you want to do?" He thought they were there to arrest him, and so there might have been an opportunity there to get rid of Stalin, and if the government collapses and because they were getting ready to flee Moscow, I think potentially because they were pretty close. That might have caused like political upheaval. Maybe you would have had like a Brest-Litovsk situation where they just they're having like political upheaval and they just want to like sign a peace treaty. So who knows on that one? But that was one point where I felt like maybe they could have. Well, they weren't in the war with the U.S., that's a colossal mistake just because of our production capabilities. Like Britain, they couldn't take them, at least not then. But Britain's not really going to be able to do anything. They're just going to sit in their island for a while and use their navy.
Stare angrily across the channel.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Drink tea.
I
know a scenario for our alt history discussion today.
Friggin'
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be Sweden joining the war. Sweden joining World War II.
On which side?
It does fuck all.
So that's the good question, right? Which side? Because
the Germans bought iron ore off of them.
The Germans bought iron ore off of them, and early on, Britain was planning to invade Sweden after Norway. I forgot the name of the plan, but
there was Churchill plan, I think. Like he was for that.
So it's like who invaded them first? Maybe the Russians invaded them first. I feel like with how close they were with the Germans, they would probably flip to the German side. But that's kind of the thing. So like me being like a big Swede collector, everyone's like, they're a neutral country. Like their guns don't matter. Like neutral, people don't respect neutral countries' rifles. They haven't gone through a war. I guess it's not tested or something. But I'm like, they were real close. Like Swedish cities got bombed during the war. Swedish volunteers and stuff. But like there was like the Russians on one side of them, with Finland, and then the Nazis in Norway. Like they were pretty surrounded, and and Britain had plans to invade them. It came very, very close. So I've always thought about like kind of what their contribution would be if any, if they're not like a huge country or anything like that. But
I do think a big part of the reason why the Germans didn't actually invade Sweden is because they were afraid that they just sabotage like the iron mines. If I remember reading that right, I think I read that in Gerhard Weinberg's. I can't remember. It's like a Total War, Call to Arms, or something like that. It's like this 900-page book. I haven't read the whole thing, just parts of it. But I think that was a big concern because as long as they're kind of neutral and they're getting iron ore from, like, okay, this is great. But if you try to invade them and they destroy those mines, well, now your ability to get these raw materials is diminished. And I think it was really good, like really good iron ore, wasn't it? Like high quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Swedish iron ore is amazing at the time.
Yeah, there's something special in it that makes it kind of some of the better ore. But I wonder how much is of the Swedish iron is responsible for like the stereotype or whatever of like high German quality and it's German steel, that's a good product. And it's like, especially during the war and early war, it's like, it's a good German product because it's Swedish steel.
Where did the Swiss get their iron ore, I wonder, because their K31s and stuff are beautiful. And I don't know how much they actually get of their own. I mean, I don't think they have
a bunker. That's why they're beautiful.
That's why they're all dinged up.
Well, I mean, they got used. They were used for decades by guys out and exercising and stuff like that.
But I think are all up in a lot of them.
Oh yeah, the butt stocks are pretty. Yeah, that's a big indicator of prices. I think is like the stock condition with them because it's very, very common to find them with chewed up stocks. But if you find one that's got like a real nice stock on it, those K31s typically go for a little bit higher. But no, Sweden got a lot closer, I think, to getting directly involved in the war than Switzerland. Because Swedish volunteers fought. They fought on both sides. Swedish volunteers joined the German army. They joined the Finnish army to fight the Russians. Again, small country, small population, whatever. But it's something that I've thought about a lot. Just collecting Swedish guns.
I'd like to do more research on what they did with flyers that crashed there, because that might give you some indication. Whereas like the Swiss were kind of like, if you come to the country, we'll shoot you down. We don't care who you are, and then you can return everybody. But I think didn't the Swedish kind of like turn some of their some down flyers or POWs or something, or maybe people that they captured, didn't they turn some of those back over to the Germans? I don't know if it was under us or not, but
yeah, I think international law, they're supposed to hold them for the remaining of the war, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Swedes just returned Germans to Germany, sort of thing. I know they transported Germans on trains during the war. There's a book that I have, a memoir, German memoir, and they got onto Swedish trains, and because they were in Finland when the Finns switched sides during the war, and they were trying to get to Switzerland, and then they rode on, Swedish train. They tried to get to Swedish trains to get down to Denmark.
You wonder on the flip side, if the Germans did go into Sweden, if they decided to invade, would it be kind of like in Norway, where they just had a bunch of troops out there, even up to the end of the war? They had hundreds of thousands of troops there just kind of sitting there in case the Allies tried to invade. And I think they were there pretty far after D-Day. But of course, it's not as much of a coastline as Norway, so maybe they wouldn't need to leave as many there.
Mm.
But they would have raw materials, and you'd want to guard those. I don't know offensively what they could do.
A major problem that happened in Norway is the German Navy lost a lot of its destroyers and one cruiser. So they lost a lot of their smaller ships to be able to fight off the shores of Norway, Sweden, etc. So if you look at what the Royal Navy did in the Norway campaign, they sunk the hell out of some German destroyers.
There was a large battleship, I think, too, that they sunk. Was it Tirpitz or something like that?
That was interned or it wasn't interned. It was kept scuttled away in a Norwegian fjord. But that was more like they wanted to use it as a threat to the Arctic convoys. So they kept it up there close to the Arctic convoys. And it also kept the British trying to go get it. And they eventually did. But, a major problem if you're going to invade Sweden would be they do have a lot of coastline between Sweden and Finland in the Baltic. So you would need smaller ships to be able to get in close to the harbors and the shoreline, so you could even engage in naval bombardment.
Huh.
So, Danny, I'm reading this. There was a remark by Winston Churchill about Sweden, and it said that they ignored the greater moral issues of the war and played both sides for profit.
Oh.
So up until 43, they basically took a stance of neutrality, but also favoring the Germans. So they allowed German troop movements through the area. That was like an official treaty thing. They allowed Germans to take shore leave there. Iron ore was sold to German companies. And then in 43, when they realized that Germany was going to probably lose the war, they started to switch. And in exchange for the Allies paying them, they stopped selling iron ore to the Germans. So they paid them the difference.
Maybe in defense, maybe they were also just like, okay, the Germans are strong enough to invade us. Maybe we'll let them do what they need to do or want. And then once we're not as worried about them invading us, okay, now we can kind of cut them off a little bit.
That's particularly what it is that essentially they set it as we're going to let them kind of do what they want to do to let us stay on our own. And then when they realize that, they're not going to win, we'll switch sides. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, if the Germans invaded them, they're just going to probably roll them pretty easily. And then your country's occupied. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. I mean, the Swiss kind of, I would say they played both sides as much as they just were aggressively neutral, but they had dealings with both sides. I mean,
yeah,
they had, I think, to deal with the Germans because they were pretty much surrounded, and they didn't, if the Germans cut off, I think it was their full supplies or whatever, everybody would freeze in a month. So, you wonder how much of it is they're under duress or
I think it's
they had some kind of plan or a profit.
Their
Like
plan
a-
was to do nothing and make
Yeah.
money.
But what do you do?
I would do the same thing, nothing, and make money.
Yeah, a friend
Danny,
of mine
you're the sweet
recently
guy.
was like, a friend of mine. I was talking to him about neutral countries or something, guns from neutral. He was like, "Oh, screw them. They stay neutral in the war, so they're basically like they're terrible. They're terrible people or whatever for staying neutral, for not getting for not getting involved in the war." And it's like, man, you're a tiny little country. Like that's a tough
Yeah, it's a tough call.
prospect.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
Luxembourg. Let's
But-
get all pissed off.
So,
yeah,
uh,
your 60-man army.
Yeah,
Luxembourg.
I got
Danny.
one plane. Let's do this.
Danny, I'm reading this section here. It was called Project Big Ben. So a German V2 rocket accidentally crashed in Sweden, and that's where a lot of the technology that it was the first captured V2 rocket that they traded to the Allies in exchange for Spitfires.
Oh man, yeah. You know the crazy thing is the first man-made object into space, I think, was a V2.
Yeah.
They went so high, and the first pictures, I think, from space of Earth were taken after the war and captured German V2 rockets. The Americans put just a camera on a V2, shot it up, took pictures.
This thing says that the people were so excited at the spectacle of the rocket launch that he accidentally instructed the rocket in the wrong direction. It was like, it didn't explode! Oh shit, no!
They used to blow up, man. You ever see the videos of them things like falling over and then you just see all the fuel run out of it and then it explodes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was also a problem
Did you
with them
ever-
air bursting as well.
I heard that they made the fuel for the V2s out of potatoes, and I forgot how many tons of potatoes it took for each V2 rocket to fuel up. And all I could think of was geez, every World War the Germans were starving, and then to just waste just thousands and thousands of tons of potatoes to make fuel, just for these rockets, man.
Wunderwaffe, mein Kameraden.
And yeah, just for the propaganda. That's what they were. Yeah, all the memoirs, German memoirs that I read, they all sort of say the same thing. About late in the war, that was one of the things that they keep hearing of the Wunderwaffe, and then they're gonna change the war at the last minute. I guess it played a role that way and kind of keeping them from falling apart early. But
I saw a picture of Hitler and all the generals looking at a remote controlled scale model of a mouse, going in a hole, and I was like, what the heck is this?
It went in a hole. This will save us all.
It's literally the size of like a monster truck, like a scale model, and it's driving it around like kids driving it around, oh yeah, sweet, it's gonna go in the hole, it's gonna come out. It's like, no, fuck, what the hell is this?
Was that the Goliath?
No, it was a scale model of a mouse. It was, I guess, to demonstrate the tank design.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they just couldn't get it to go, right? Just have to get it to go more than 5 kilometers an hour.
It was a
Without breaking
gigantic
down.
waste of time and resources.
They never built one.
Like most of whatever Hitler came up
I
with.
built 2.
They built 2 hulls and 1 turret. They never combined them into one. You can look at one that's the hull reconstruction and the turret in Russia.
Yeah, I thought they slapped a turret from another one onto the hull from another one, and
There's also a hull of an E100 built. I don't think it had road wheels, but that was Ferdinand Porsche's weirdo transmission, engines drive electric motors, hybrid kind of design. Anyways, they tried it with a Tiger P and the elephants, and it didn't work that well.
oh
Tiger
Tiger,
1P.
Porsche's Tiger and the Ferdinand. Yeah, that's they were
Actually,
neat.
watch the documentary on them. They're actually really cool.
Yeah, they're neat looking.
The one that always amazed me is the Sturm Tiger.
Oh
the
yeah,
rocket.
yeah,
It's
that
like a
huge,
mortar on it.
stubby little chode barrel.
It's a rocket launcher, and it projects all the gas out of the rocket forward. So if
Yeah.
you look at the barrel, it's this giant hole, and there's a bunch of little holes around it, and that's so that way the blast doesn't go in the crew cabinet; it goes out the front of the gun.
And my favorite thing is, I don't know if anybody's seen this, but if anybody's ever played the game World of Tanks, they got a bunch of experts in armored warfare together, and they did like a panel discussion. And they got the guy from one of the British museums. I can't remember. I can see his face. He got a big, stereotypical British guy mustache, an old British guy mustache. But he was talking about the commander for one of the Sturm Tigers, and there was like, this thing is utterly useless. He was like, I'd rather it would be attached to like a half track versus having all of this armor on it, because it's just pointless.
They used them in this Warsaw Uprising.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he also noted in his report, he said that it was additionally useless in that it caused so much damage that no troops could effectively move into the area. It was like, it's pointless, it's useless, and it's too good at destroying things.
Did you guys ever see the Comet Plane? Like, it's like a rocket that they just strap
Oh,
it to, and then
The British Comet?
Oh, no.
No,
He's talking about
the
the
German
ME-163.
163.
Yep.
Yeah, it's basically a rocket that just goes up to like the height of the bombers in like 5 or 6 minutes, runs out of fuel, and then it doesn't even have landing gear, I don't think.
No, it had a skid.
A lot of people just died, I think, when if the fuel tank, if the fuel caught on fire, it just blew up.
It had to, when you go to land, they have to eject all the remaining fuel out of the plane because the fuel will explode. So they have to, if you have any left, you have to get rid of it, and then you can safely land, because if you don't, you will be a road pizza, a flaming road pizza.
Like, just give me a rifle. I'll take my chances in the foxhole.
Yeah.
Oh, at the reenactment last weekend, I helped sort of reinforce the semi-auto versus bolt action thing. I don't know if you guys heard, like a couple years ago when like Ian and Carl were doing a lot of the bolt action, like two-gun action shoots. People were saying, like, I guess people were defending like bolt actions, saying like they're perfectly adequate or something, like in modern combat, even something like that. I don't know. Basically saying they're fine. You don't like need a semi-auto, but they were super nice. I brought a G43 to the reenactment, and that was the first time that I've had a semi-auto at a reenactment, because I usually bring a bolt action, and it was cool. It was good. It was good stuff. Can confirm. Got a couple weird malfunctions. I got like a weird like double feed type malfunction. It's kind of interesting. Like one time, this is one of those things, like people, when they look at like a gun and like, okay, like it's got a removable box magazine, whatever. And this is what it's capable of. But then when you actually take the gun out and use it at a range, that gives you another impression. But then when you use a gun in in a situation that applies a certain amount of like pressure, so like if you're being timed like at a match or like at a reenactment or something like that, and then you tend to be a little bit more like clumsy or fumbly, and then that kind of gives you a whole nother aspect, I think, of a gun. And sure enough, man, I reloaded, like I changed mags with the G43, and I don't know what I did, but like I clicked like the mag in like incorrectly somehow, and I got a malfunction. Like I got like, there's one in the chamber, and that went off, and then it didn't strip the next one. I was like, how did that even happen? But it was just the action and stuff was happening, and I just wasn't paying attention to all the guys shooting at me and all around me and stuff. And
So would you have preferred to carry the 41 then, because it's stripper clip fed with a fixed magazine?
See, that's a good question. I actually stripper clip loaded the 43 a surprisingly amount, like a lot. Like if there was like a lull, it would just be easier to, put the 5 rounds in it to like top up the magazine, or at least just like increase it to like 8 or whatever if it was down, than to, swap mags and then have to worry about like having a partial mag. If all things equal, I think it'd be fine. But the weight of the 41, man, I couldn't. I can't imagine carrying around the 41. And it's because, on paper, the 41 is only like a pound and a half or pound, something like that heavier. But like, dude, so much of that weight is out there on the muzzle, and being, further away with leverage, like working against you, it's like, it feels it feels like 5 pounds more or something
Yeah.
like that. You know,
It's like holding a brick at arm's
Yeah.
length.
yeah. Actually, shouldering it and holding it, it's real heavy. You know, on your support arm. So I don't think I'd want to carry around a 41 at an event specifically because of that. But I got to play with that guy's. One of the guys at the event had a real MP44. It was marked MP44, but the STG 44 as a real full auto one. It was pretty sweet, and I was just I held it for a while and I was playing with it and stuff, and I was after just like a couple minutes, it was kind of like weighing on me, and I was like, oh, this is actually heavy. I was like, this thing is like, it's dense. It's a lot heavier than than it looks. I think it's heavier than probably heavier than a Milday K. Very slick, very, very modern feeling. I was gonna shoot it, but I never got a chance at the reenactment to shoot it. But it'd be pretty sweet. He had one of those, and he had a PPSH 41, a full auto one. That was cool.
Yeah, that stuff's awesome. Even get to see it.
Yeah.
It's quite the force multiplier in small units.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
really
really. Yeah, it is for sure, man. And those engagements, I could always tell where he was with that with the SDG because I could hear his that distinctive sound and the rapid fire. I think he kept it in semi most of the time. Kind of makes sense. I think they did in the war too.
Did you get to shoot the PPSH?
No, didn't get a chance to.
One of our guys carries one of them. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think that thing is pretty dense too.
Yeah, it is. It's heavier than it looks.
But yeah, that was my first.
A little bit, guys. I gotta help get my kid. I got a few more minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feel free to just head out whenever you need to. Okay. This next part, I was gonna just read a few comments and see what you guys comments that I got on the YouTube channel and just kind of see what you guys have to say.
Sure.
All right, so he commented on my French Moss 36 video because the title of this video, and I kind of knew that this would trigger the Francophiles. I called it "Mediocrity at its Finest," and I kind of mean that like it's mediocre, but it's like the best kind of mediocre. You know, the Moss 36, and this guy says calling it mediocre in the usual sense is unfair. However, except for the lack of manual safety, the rifle represents a high standard that all other bolt guns should strive to exceed. Okay. In that way, it is what the average bolt gun of its time should have been. He italicized should. The Moss 36 is a combat rifle, not a target rifle. It was designed to meet the needs of the ordinary rifleman, and as such, the lack of fiddly features like a windage-adjustable rear sight are entirely reasonable. Eugene Soner would later apply the same logic to the rear sight of the early M16. And I've gotten a few videos or a few comments on the video of people kind of being like calling it like, well, it's not so much mediocre.
It wasn't supposed to be a frontline rifle.
Exactly.
The original goal of the Moss program was to give everyone in frontline combat a semi-auto rifle and everyone in rear line duties the bolt action rifle, kind of like the M1 carbine program, but a little different. So, it's
I
going
can't
to
think of
be
how it's outstanding in any way.
Yeah, it's not outstanding in any way. It's
whoa! I let them order the equipment they needed.
Yeah, it's true.
They're like, hey, can we get the milling machines for making this semi-auto? This bolt action. Yeah, okay, you can order the machines for that.
Didn't it also utilize the same wood furniture? Or am I thinking of something else?
Maybe buttstock.
Yeah, maybe
I would need to review, but this is probably one of those French things where it's like, no, totally, the RC uses most of the parts of the label. Until it doesn't.
Didn't the Germans kind of borrow the idea of like the bayonet for the FG-42? Like how it just slides in
the tuck away.
So.
Yeah.
But the original concept was to have minimal, or rather maximum parts interchangeability between your first and second line rifles, and then to save the money. Also, the French still had somewhat colonial concerns. So, like, your notion is, hey, we can get a lot done for less, but then it's France, so it all goes to committee, and then it gets kicked around for years, and then you have to change things. So, to be honest with you, I'd have to go do a lot of reading to see how much actually ended up being able to Like there's the expectation, and then I don't know what the reality is because I'd have to go back.
And then we
do my
go to
reading.
war and everything goes to shit.
So yeah, and then the Germans invade and push their shit in, and then we have this problem.
Yeah. I think people that I've noticed lately, a lot of people kind of taking up for the MOS 36 and the kind of French guns in general. But I think part of that is, this revival and liking French guns. But then also, like early on, Alex with TFB TV, like when he made that one video, like defending the MOS 36. And then I think Bloke on the range, kind of, defending the MOS 36. I think it's sort of changing people's perceptions.
I don't think anybody's saying it's bad. You're not saying it's bad.
No, I'm not saying it's bad either.
Yeah. I mean, even
No,
when you
but
watch the video, I never said it was bad.
You can get an overcorrection, which is that you have this sort of dumping on French guns and this dumping on Japanese guns and dumping on Italian guns.
Yeah.
And then when you go back around and try to tell people, no, it's not like that at all. This is how it was meant to be used. This is why it is this way. Like, I think, especially for the U.S. in, post-war culture, the MOS 36 is not a hunting rifle by any means. But we are very accustomed to having military rifles that then are decent hunting rifles in American culture. Like, if you're given a MOS 36 as American, you're just like, what the heck is this? Like, why did they do this? This makes it terrible for hunting. And I'm not trying to, I know that's an oversimplification, but it is how our surplus market tended to think until very recently.
Well, I mean, it's the individual marksman theory, too, with the U.S., right, Othais?
Yeah, the old Buffington leftovers.
Yeah.
To be fair, I mean, we went into World War II still thinking of sort of the infantry rifleman ahead of the machine gun.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like we've ever been really keen on it in terms of, a military forward thinking in that regard.
But I think it's just an American taste thing that then made us sort of incompatible with what the MOS 36 was doing in in a surplus market especially. I don't know that we wouldn't have understood it in a military sense. But we again, everybody's got to remember, the original collector's market is not a military appreciation market. The original collector's market is a hunting or home protection or whatever, target shooting, whatever the case may be. It's a sport market that now more recently, and that's why there's so many Bubbas, right? Because before it was about utility. Only now do we have a situation in which we have an overabundance of income and we can just collect things that we don't really use. And so that's changed things starting, I guess, you really start to see the shift in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It just starts taking over.
It does always feel like more of a cheaper rifle.
Well, it's because it's not feature rich.
Yeah.
Well, it's meant to be economic.
Yeah, it is economic. I don't know. I'm not saying it's bad either. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. I mean,
I
I
don't
figured
know. In terms of labor, I can't say how cheap or not it is because people say it's simple, but then it is milled. It's not a stamped gun. And I don't, you look at something like an Arisaka that's been made off of a tube. You know what I mean? You have cylindrical steel and then you mill out the shapes you need. That's a fairly economical rifle. So I'm not really sure. I think the least appreciated thing that we have right now is sort of the machine tool technology, because you'd have to have someone who is extremely familiar with machine tool, which I am not. Then you'd have to have them be a historian of machine tool technology in order to understand what was available to make the cuts at the time or how much labor would be put into them. And then you could let them analyze a rifle and start to decide how many operations went into doing it,
Yeah. To me, just sort of based off the lack of features, I would sort of say it's probably, or, if it's just a rear echelon type of thing, they don't necessarily didn't put too many bells and whistles on it. But I mean, I guess it kind of has everything it needs. I don't know.
The lack of features is just lack of doctrine. They don't use safeties. They chamber when they're ready to go, They don't do windage fire. I mean, none of their rifles before had windage fire, so why add it now?
Tom, do you need something?
Me?
Yeah, you were activating. I didn't know if you were trying to say something.
Oh, I must have pushed a button. I didn't.
Oh, okay. Just making sure.
Understand.
Othais, when you brought up on, your video on the Italian rifles really solidified to me, and also the Russian rifles too, which is that they're as good as they could have made them. That's for the Italian rifles especially.
Yeah, the Italians, especially the Russians, I almost feel like they bit off more than they could chew. I don't know why they stuck with that thing, because that must have been very labor intensive to make, although they, to the Tsar and to the communist labor was just there, right? But I still feel like they probably could have. I think Russia would have been better off with a Carcano in some ways. I would still like to do some like really cold weather testing of one of those guns, but I live in the deep south because I'm just
It's cold
mildly.
as fuck up here.
Yeah,
I'm mildly curious if, say, a Carcano would lock up faster than a Mosin for some reason I don't see. I don't understand why it would. They don't have as many mating surfaces, but I'm just vaguely curious because the Mosin to me seems like so many moving parts for a bolt action gun.
Why was it that the Finns didn't like the Carcanos they got? Didn't they get rid of most of those? They put them in second line service.
I mean, to be fair, I think the Finns had more of a marksman culture, and they were really good at accurizing their Mosins. I don't think they wanted to set up an entire program for accurizing Carcano.
Right. They just weren't used to it either, so they're just like, all right.
Yeah, knowing them, if they had actually if they had been given 2 million, way before the Mosin, and they had a program in place for accurizing them, it might have gone the other way. You never know. Although I will say the Carcano didn't come to them with like a. Did they get? I can't remember. Did they get the 735 or did they get the?
I got the 7s.
yeah, I got the 7s.
Yeah, that could also have some long range implications too that they might not have liked. Although it was a decent cartridge. I mean, there's actually a really good cartridge in a lot of ways, but I don't know if that fit into their doctrine at the time or not. I'd have to actually know more about the Finnish shooting culture at that time. And also, let's be fair, you get a hold of a Carcano, it feels light, which makes you think it's cheap. The bolt waggles everywhere, which makes you think it's cheap. It doesn't exude confidence, right? But it doesn't. Yeah. The reason it doesn't exude confidence is for things that are actually immaterial to what it's supposed to do. Like it's supposed to shoot straight and shoot flat and shoot accurate, and it's supposed to be, reliable. Which, other than the clips that are now worn out, I see a lot of people with feed issues, but they're using clips 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 times that were supposed to be used once. So, or even if they weren't supposed to be used once, like when they were gathered up, they were put through a forming die that nobody has anymore,
Well, guys, I got to get going.
All right, Tom. Well, I'm glad you could join.
Tom.
Yeah, thanks.
See you later.
See ya.
Yeah, Othais, I quote you quite often to the Mosin fans, which is from your video in the M91, which is the Mosin was built on an inherently flawed bolt.
The Mosin it's just a completely out of order priority. It's the antithesis of holistic design. It's like, okay, we're going to design this one thing. Okay, that worked. Now we're going to add this next part. Okay, that worked. Now we're going to add this next part. It's an amalgam.
Yeah. Then this happens. Oh, we can fix that. We'll just add this to here.
Yeah, and at no point did anybody have the confidence or the ability to go back. I mean, it's really the anti-John Moses Browning, right? So like Browning will conceive of a system and then he'll try to apply it in his mind. And he doesn't even write stuff down because he's constantly looking for the interplay of all the parts because he's doing it holistically. He's designing a system. And the Mosin is more of a sequence.
Yeah, which the main reason why I sort of quote you there is because it seems like a lot of people, when they think of the Mosin, I've heard them say this, is that like, yeah, it's a really primitive gun, but it's meant to be really rugged, and that's why it's so primitive, simplistic, whatever in their minds.
Well, it depends on what. First of all, it's not primitive.
No.
Like that drives me nuts because everybody's like, it's so primitive. I'm like, okay, take one apart. There's more parts than a Carcano in there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Like there's as many, like arguably the Springfield is the same number of parts to a certain degree, but well, no, because discount the magazine. I'm just thinking about the bolt for a second. That's how lost I am. Take the bolt apart or take the magazine apart and you've got real problems. But even just on the bolt assembly, you've got that collar that's all its purpose is to prevent out of battery rotation. And yet it's attached all the way at the front and it runs all of that tension through like a big extended fork. And it's just like, why? And the answer is like, well, we had a separate bolt head because that's good, right? And you're like, arguably good, arguably, like it depends on what you're doing. If you're from an armor level, sure, separate bolt head's great. It's good for head spacing. You are using a rimmed cartridge though, so I don't. Anyway, yeah. So and then there's so many things in it. It's like, look at the Arisaka, right? The Arisaka is beautifully simple. The Type 38, which is not an Arisaka, it's arguably the Nambu. It's beautifully simple, right? Fewer parts than the Mosin, However, the assemblage is a little complicated in the sense that they have to weld the rear cap together and some other things, right? So constructing it, probably on par, a little easier than constructing a Mosin, fewer parts overall, and it's a rimless cartridge, which means it has to have a gas check system built in. The Russians don't even really have a gas system built into that gun because it's a rimmed round, so that does the gas check for you. So what's the excuse? Like, why are there all these parts going everywhere? Why couldn't they design an out-of-battery system that wasn't a fork sticking down the entire length of the gun? And the only reason it was there is it's because, like, well, if we're already breaking the bolt in half well, not in half, but we're cutting the bolt in order to have the bolt head and the bolt body, then if we need to have this thing, we'll install it in between the two. That way it's less wasted space. But then when you go to rotate that bolt handle, you're turning across two interfacing surfaces before you get to the bolt lugs. And you're also meeting resistance from components that are interacting on a rail that goes all the way to the rear, that then kind of pads out the relationship between that surface and the receiver. And it's just so much slop.
And if you get stuff in between the locking bar and the bolt body, it will lock up.
I mean, I'd be really interested to see how much you can improve a Mosin bolt just by getting rid of the out of battery, or the anti-rotation device. Sorry, the I don't have a proper word for this because I say out of battery safety, but that's not right because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the preventing you from decocking the rifle when the bolt is back. I don't know that there's a concise term for that, or it's slipped my mind. But it's just, that's all that stupid tine is doing, sticking out there. It's not doing anything else for it.
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody's like fixed it.
I don't know.
Because people, like, it's very common for people to understand that like a 9130 is not like a great rifle, and if you had a 9130, people wouldn't expect it to like perform super well. But you put a new barrel and a new stock on that, and then put a little SA stamp on it, and then all of a sudden it's like the best bolt action ever made.
Well, to be fair, they did a better job of fitting their parts. That's why they feel so much better, because they've taken a lot of the slop out. They've put a spring back on that trigger so that it's not just flicking around feeling weird on you, right? It gives you feedback. They've redone the barrels entirely. The original barrels were just label barrels. That's all they were. They just copied the label. So, they cleaned up a lot and they saved a lot because they didn't have to, like, people are like, well, if it's so bad, why the Finns use it? And you're like, well, because it's a lot of money to build a receiver and a bolt and all this other stuff, and it's just right there. Why not just pick the best fitting stuff and reconfigure it and polish it down and hand fit it? And that's so much cheaper than having to make it from scratch.
And I mean, speaking from owning both, like, my worst accurate rifle is my 9130, which is like minute of pie plate, and my best is my 2830 finish rifle. Like, they did a good job.
Yeah, but they put the care into it, number one. But number two, they could have done that with less effort with a different gun. That's the thing. It's like, they didn't go out and say, we will use the Mosin above all others. That's what they had, and they were very clever with it. But if they were given a different gun, they probably would have done even better. Like, honestly, a lot of that also goes to shooting competitions in the Scandinavian countries, which is something I'd really like to explore some more. But look at what happens in like Sweden and Denmark and Norway. You get these guns that they develop that are adopted, quote unquote, as marksman's rifles, but then they're never issued. They're not actually military rifles. What it is there's this Scandinavian shooting matches that are happening every year. And it's become an obsession for them, a la American football. And so they can only shoot with military rifles. And so when their rifle teams start getting shellacked, they go to the military and they have them adopt a rifle for marksmen's, in case. But we're not issuing them, but they're official. We wrote it down on paper. They're official.
Swedish ones.
Militaries don't adopt target rifles.
It happens in all of those countries, right? Except for Finland, who doesn't have a ton of money to throw around on doing that, although I'm sure they had some exemption to that I'm just not thinking of right now. But in Finland, they have to compete with their Scandinavian neighbors in these competitions, and they're trying to use Russian rifles. So they have to go to town accurizing these Russian rifles. They could have also just had the Swedish Mauser to begin with, and they wouldn't have had to do half the work they had to do. Or, they could have had the Krag, which they would have had to limit their ammo pressure, but otherwise it would have been fairly accurate, So there's just things they have to do to compete on that level. I don't know that Finland would have gone as far as they did if they weren't constantly competing with their Scandinavian neighbors in their shooting competitions.
Yeah. So here's the question, right? Because anytime anyone criticizes Mosins or whatever, a lot of people shoot back with old Simo, right? And the question is, did Simo rack up so many kills because he was using a Mosin, or did he rack up so many kills despite having a Mosin?
Honestly, I don't think it depends on the rifle in this case.
Yeah, I think if you gave him a rifle that shot where he pointed it, he would do what he was doing.
I don't think I've ever seen anything coming out from him in like written or anything like that where he was like lauding the Mosin's accuracy or anything like that. He didn't seem like the kind of person to like he's like Othais said, like anything he would have been handed to him, his job was to shoot Soviets.
I mean, as long as the gun had a certain amount of precision, that man could deliver accuracy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the most deadly German sniper used a Mosin.
Oh, with the PU?
With a PU.
Hmm.
So
I'm not up on snipers, but
yeah, there's a famous photo of and he carried a Mosin with a PU scope on it, or maybe it's PEM, whatever, doesn't matter.
did he rack him up in early war?
No.
Okay. The Russians were the only ones really running a sniper program at the beginning of World War II.
Yeah, the Germans were behind in the sniper program in both wars.
Everybody abandoned it after World War I. It's really wild. Like, all this stuff was developed, and then everybody just left it, like, just dropped it cold. And then the Russians kind of came back around to it vaguely right before the war. I mean, as far as I understand, I still have to do a lot more reading on World War II. That is, I'm going from deep memory now.
The Germans were into, like, they had like a quasi like DMR like concept where they didn't necessarily have a lot of these, high power optics, but they had those little, like, what were they, the ZF1s on the K98Ks, those little like 1.5 power little straw tube scopes. And then they had the was it the ZF4 on the G43s and stuff.
Yep.
It's like they weren't super geared more towards like the specific sniper role as far as just trying to increase as much people's, shooting capability at once. Just kind of like a broad stroke. Like, it'd be better if 4 guys had a cheaper, less good scope than 1 guy had a very good scope. Maybe is what they were more planning on. But I know early on
the DMR role of a squad. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but early on with the G43, which is why like they all have the threaded muzzles and stuff, was Hitler actually, I think he ordered it, that he wanted 1 soldier in every squad to have a scoped suppressed G43 at every squad as like the DMR guy with the obviously semi-auto DMR, and because he thought that would be very, very beneficial. And you wouldn't do something like that, like with a sniper. You wouldn't put a sniper in every squad. That'd be, a lot more specialized, rare sort of thing. But yeah, I think they had more of a DMR sort of concept in the war than really like a sniper sort of concept, which still kind of irks me when people refer to like a G43 with a scope as like a sniper rifle. I'm a sniper G43.
That's because anything with an optic is a sniper rifle, Danny. That's how it works.
Yep. That's it.
So I sold my PSL. Everybody, when I was trying to sell it, everybody was like, "Oh, you're selling a sniper rifle?" No. God dang it! PSLs are not sniper rifles.
Oh man,
it's fun to shoot though.
Yeah, it was fun to shoot. What was another comment, Danny?
Oh, okay. Let me see. I know I had some good ones lately. Somebody commented on my Russian capture video. He says, HK Boy commented, "Bruh, why the Russians didn't copy the Kar 98K rifle instead of continue producing the garbage rod?" I like that he started it with bruh.
I mean, we've already got to discuss this, wasn't it?
Yeah, we actually covered that one.
Like economy.
There you go.
Economy of scale. They've already done it all. Like, why would you? You can't just switch it all.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Steve commented on my testing the Jungmann, and he says there is probably a place in hell for anyone who attempts this. Do not do this.
Yeah, Danny, because when you put dirt on a rifle, it destroys it. And
Yeah, I know.
obviously you're not going to clean it
wet-
afterwards.
Wet dirt melts steel. I don't know if you knew that. But
It
as
is
soon as you put wet dirt on a gun, that steel just just melts away to nothing. I've asked people specifically, like, hey, like, why, why, like, what does it do? And they're like, oh, it just, it gets in the tolerances or the whatever. And I'm like, well, what does it do? Like, specifically, why do you think it's bad? Or I'll rust it. Well, like, it's not gonna rust. I'm gonna clean it. Like, nobody can really articulate like why mud testing is particularly
When you
bad.
could
I
have
get,
a
like,
catastrophic
first aid that blows up
failure.
or whatever. That's exactly what it. Yeah, like
I
worst
mean-
case, whatever. But I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna cause a catastrophic failure. But
You don't know.
other than that,
I think it's because it's viewed as like a collector's piece. It's
It's-
not really used as viewed as a tool
It's
anymore.
viewed as disrespectful, is what it is. That's what people
Yeah.
are saying. It's viewed as disrespectful because in their minds it's expensive, and it could possibly be also expensive, and therefore you're disrespecting the fact that they can't own it because it's too expensive, and you're just wasting it essentially.
See, I would take I agree with you. And my point of view when I watched you do those videos was, cool, blow yours up, buddy. I won't blow up mine. And then you did it, and it didn't blow up, and I'm like, hey, now I know.
yeah, they don't blow up, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like these military guns, like they kind of knew they were gonna get dirty.
Yeah. You're going to hug it while you sleep.
So should I mud test the Lee Navy then, Danny?
Most definitely, yes.
It is your American right to do whatever you choose
Yeah.
with your weapon, sir.
I did have somebody say like, "Thank you for mud testing." I forgot what it was. I think the Scar 17 when I mud tested it like years ago with like Florida mud, because I guess the only mud was like was Carl's like desert mud, which
The
people don't
official
think
mud.
is good enough mud.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's sandy mud. It's not good mud.
yeah.
I love the people that argue that. Like, it's dirt, guys.
Did you test that with a viscosimeter? Here we go. Somebody commented on my 5 things to avoid at gun shows video. What happened in the good old days when you purchased firearm and local stores offer firearm and it was cheap back then? Well said, sir.
Come on, Danny. You gotta have better stuff than that,
Well
rather than
said.
people that are barely literate.
I don't know why that was that one just tickled me.
We're reading people's drunk comments on Danny's videos.
Okay, another guy commented on the same video. I work at a place with a bunch of old tanks, so is it okay if I bring one of them?
To a
What?
gun show?
What? I don't know. Like that was it.
Yeah.
His guy's name is Scissors.
You could bring a tank to a gun show. I mean, the people who own the roads are probably going to be pissed at you, but whatever. It's your American right to do whatever you want with your piece of hardware, sir.
Yeah. Okay, another comment on that video is anyone who asks, "What's your bottom price?" is an asshole of a negotiator. Same for the other side of the coin. People who just want to make an offer or want you to make an offer.
I never
Just
did like the you make an offer thing.
Well,
That
if the conversation
Oh,
is, if I say, "What are you asking?" and you come back with, "You make an offer," that's annoying to me.
Oh yeah. For me too. I hate that when there's like a gun or something on the table, and you're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, how much do you want? Well, make me an offer."
It's
Yeah.
perfectly normal between friends, but when you're the one at a table set up, you know what I mean? Like, it's fine if you're the guy walking around because you haven't really. I don't know. There's some social distance difference there, right? Like,
Oh, dang. Othais said the magic word. Dang it, we're gonna get hit.
Yeah. There's some social difference there where it's like you have this table, you're representing yourself as a retailer, not necessarily like a 4473 retailer, but like you are the one attempting to sell at the moment.
Yeah,
What
and you're selling your stuff, so obviously you know what you want for it. Just put a tag on it and put that amount, and we'll go from there.
I usually just annoy them when they do that. I'll just be like, okay, $100, and they're like, blah 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 blah. I'm like, okay, $103. And then,
101, 102.
and then they say whatever they say, and I'm like, look, you're using a lot of words here, but if you just gave me a number, I would understand what you actually valued the whatever at. Like, it's just one of those things. Like, it's far more efficient if you just give me your value.
I would even say among friends, it's the same way. Like, I have a couple friends that I would buy guns off of, and he's like, just make me an offer. I'm like,
No, see, I don't mind it among friends like Othais is saying, but if you're set up and you're at a facility selling something and you don't have an idea of where to start, then that's on you.
yeah.
Arguably, your friend is, if he's actually your friend, the way a friendship's supposed to work. your friend is actually looking for a number that you are comfortable with so that he does not overcharge you, or you guys are not so far apart that it just can't be sorted out.
True.
Yeah.
I always feel like if I give a low number, I'm putting them out. So I always,
No, I've been there because I've had friends be like, yeah, well, what's your number on this? I'll be like, I'll be honest with you, I'm comfortable at like 450. And then they'll go, well, I had 5 and it can meet me there. And I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll stretch to 5. You know what I mean? Like, and by the way, that's not like, I know that sounds like a thing that you hear at a gun show too, but like with friends, it can be very direct, you know?
Oh, yeah. I've bought in like 30 guns off of Danny now. I know how this dance goes.
Yep.
Whenever Danny gets bored.
Yep. He calls me up.
Yeah, no, you
cool
still got to
stuff.
you still have to get my Ross.
Hey, I had to buy a pickup, okay? The company took my truck.
Same.
No, it's sad. I've been adult.
Danny, have you gotten any more Filipinos commenting on your Colt 1911 video? It's like every day, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty often. Yeah, people still comment on that all the time, like they're trying to solve the mystery. Yeah, it's usually just like small stuff, like this guy's pointing out like how the word caliber is spelled on the slide is different. I should have tried to buy that gun, man, when I was at that gun shop. That gun shop closed down in Utah, but I should have tried to buy it.
You should have checked. You should have bought it, man. That's pretty. I mean, you're never going to see another one, probably.
Yeah, no. What I'd really like is one of the Vietnam conversion 1911s when they changed it to the 7.62 TOC. I love those. Oh, see, add that to the conversion list. There you go.
Oh, crap.
Those things are cool.
There's so many conversions.
Oh, I've done some videos on like books, like little book reviews, and people usually comment on those like, that book's not $40 anymore, it's $200. Stuff like that.
Oh, how dare the supply and demand market change.
Yeah.
And the fact that nobody's printing this book anymore.
So many books. Too many to like. Everybody's like, oh, you have to buy the book. And I totally agree, you have to buy the book. But which book? There's so many.
Well, and the problem isn't necessarily, it's also, depending on what you're talking about, like, when Tom was here, we were talking, there's not really a book on Dutch M95s, is there?
I don't know of any in English. I don't know. There might be like a book where there's like a couple pages talking about them or something like that.
I have a stack of books about them, but they're all in Dutch.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't speak Dutch.
The only Mannlicher book in English is Scarlatta's, and it has a fair number of issues.
I agree. We just talked about it before you got here, Othais.
Yep.
Because I bought an AOI long rifle from Tom, and Scarletta's book says that that's a Greek marking.
Yeah, he's he does a lot of cataloging where it's just listing guns, but I don't know how much depth he goes into on his research or what his references are at all. I mean, a lot of them are really confusing. It's like, that one, where did you get that from? I haven't read the book in a number of years, but there's just so many things in there. I'm just like, what in the world is this?
The only reason I know that it's in there is because I had a guy message me on Reddit, because I've become the M95 guy. I'm in the Reddit Milsurp group, and he was like, hey, this book says this is this. And I'm like, what? Because I don't have Scarletta's book. And he sent me a picture of it, and it just lists it out. And I think it says something like, this means this in Greek. And it's like, he has no proof of that at all. It's just like, this means this. And it's just matter-of-factly stated. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's bizarre. The Boss Martens has the best book on the Dutch rifles, but they're hard to get on occasion. Like, even if you can, translate the Dutch. But we tried doing some episodes on them. There's one rifle I can't account for. It's making me very mad, which is that they're not rare either, by the way. They're dirt common. There's one of the Nether Indie, the NIL rifles. There's a carbine with a very particular barrel band arrangement and bayonet lug that just Boss Martens has no categorization for it. And his suspicion is that they were assembled by the Indonesians after independence, but before they switched over to 303 entirely. Or perhaps it was being used as some second line thing to use up 6.5. But they only appear in 6.5, and they just don't seem to be accounted for in any of the Dutch literature. And they look like any of the others. I mean, if you put them in with everything else, you wouldn't think, oh, that must be modified in some way.
Man, I've seen a few of those 303 Dutchies over the years, and I wish I would have bought one.
They're usually pretty poor shape.
I've got one. The one with the muzzle brake. I think there's 3 versions in 303.
We were talking about it earlier. Yeah, there's a couple of different muzzle brakes and something else.
Yeah, they're terrifying.
Yeah, I think I've been getting more and more into the weird conversion rifles.
I'm very proud of one that I bought. God, it's only been a couple months, but it just turned up in one of my searches for actually a revolver. And
Here we go, recent acquisitions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
recent acquisitions. Yeah.
well, no, I saw a Dutch carbine. I was like, well, I'll put in like a real low bid and see what happens. And it bid out, and I got it in. And I got it because it was in a when I was just looking at the gunbroker photos or whatever, and it looked like it was shootable, and yet it was one of the East Indies ones. So like it looked at it, I was like, there's probably a little rust under the stock, but it's like the cleanest one I've ever seen from the East Indies. So I'll put in a low bid, and it got in, and it went through my buddy the FFL, and he was just like, yeah, it's pretty cool, all matching, huh? And I went, what? And I had to stop and look at it, and it is all matching to the friggin' screws. And I was just like, I've never seen this from an East Indies Dutch monlooker.
That just ended up in a bunker somewhere, never got touched.
Or it left with them when they left the region. It
Oh,
could have
it's
been
possible,
an actual
yeah.
Dutch boat, because the Indonesians would just they went through all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I can't believe I actually have it's all late pattern. It's not like a fantastically cool like unicorn one, but just the fact that it's not jacked up and it's all matching is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's cool. Did you see that the Chinese Mauser carbine and 7.62x39 with the folding bayonet on the barrel recently?
No.
On Gunbroker. Forgot who bought it. He's a guy in the Mauser group that he posted it after he bought it, but it got up to like 1,500. I was watching it. It like doubled in price in the last 30 minutes of the auction, like they do. But when it was around 700-800, I was like, I think I'm gonna get this thing because that's just so like it's pretty cool.
Is it a Mauser barrel or an SKS barrel?
I'm not sure.
I thought it was an SKS barrel. You sent me the link because it had the attached bayonet.
Yeah, but I didn't know if that was just like they cut down the Mauser barrel and just welded the bayonet onto it or something, or if it's an actual.
Yours is a Type 38, right, Danny?
Yeah, mine's a Type 38. It has, I believe it's because it has the Type 38 long rifle rear sight on it, but it has an SKS front sight. So I think that they just attached the front sight to it. But I know that some of those they put SKS barrels on the on the 38 receivers. Yeah, that's a
bolt action rifle and 7.62x39 would be a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's my wife's favorite one to shoot because it's cheap and light recoiling. It's a fun little shooter. I had a British guy shoot it. I think that was the first gun he ever shot.
What an odd place to start.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know, man. Oh, dude. Okay, so I'll tell this story later. I'll tell this story off the podcast. This is not a podcast story. Sorry.
Oh, canceled.
Yeah. It's still an odd place to start. Like, hey, I've never shot a gun before. All right, well, they made like 5 of these. Here you go. Go to town.
Yeah, I've had like just enough whiskey where I'm like starting to tell these stories. I'm like, no, I'm being recorded. I should.
My first gun was a Chilean 1895, which is not one that you'd be like, oh, that's a common one to start with.
Yeah, no, that's kind of a random, unappreciated one, really.
It's because what, Danny? What's the best millimeter?
7mm is the best millimeter. It's God's own caliber, man. My a guy recently commented on my Chilean Mauser Evolution video. I appreciate your knowledge about my country's history. I can assure you that not many people here would know the information displayed here.
I've actually heard a lot of that from people that I've spoken to from Reddit that are from different countries. Like when I've posted my Siamese Mauser, there's been people that are Thai, and they're like, I've never seen this before. I didn't even know these existed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've never expected to see something in Thai with Thai writing on it on this subreddit, and I'm like, what? And he goes like, I've never seen this before.
It's kind of high praise indeed. Like,
it's pretty neat, but like the culture of surplusing it to your local groups just didn't really exist in a lot of places.
My Egyptian battle rifles video, I've had a few Egyptians comment on their stuff, like, hey, thanks for making a video about our guns. Nobody cares about them, or something like that.
And they got some cool stuff. They got the Keems, they got the
Mhm.
FF49s.
Yeah, they do. The Egyptians have a lot of cool, like, funky guns because they like adopted a lot of different designs and then changed them. Changed them up.
Yeah.
So those are pretty neat.
The Rashid being the fuck you to the SKS.
Yeah. Exactly.
Dude, every time I think of a Rashid, I just think about the time I could have bought one.
Oh, he could have, Danny, but he didn't.
Yeah, it's not. It's just one of the things I think of late at night. One of the gun regrets.
Wasn't that one of the ones I told you to buy?
I don't know if I don't know if we were on the group chat back then. I don't know. That's when I lived in St. George, Utah.
Maybe.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know if I took any pictures of it or anything. I just saw it. Ah, fuck! It was like $400 or something stupid.
Oh, something stupid. Yeah, you've always complained about it.
And he had two of them was the thing, and one was like $400 and one was like $300 because the $300 one was like rougher. Yeah, I know what you're thinking.
Danny's an idiot.
Yes.
I'm looking
Yes.
towards your
I just had
direction.
no idea. I just had no idea what it was, man. Like I didn't know what Rashids were. I just thought it was a weird looking SKS. Like I'm not into post-war.
I mean, it is a weird looking SKS.
I mean, I didn't. I had no idea of value or whatever. And to me,
Yeah.
I'm just wanting like World War II bolt actions and stuff. That's what I was. I wasn't even into pistols back then.
I gotta get you into a nice Makarov.
I don't know. Post-war, man.
I'm telling you, man. Once you go Mac, you never go back. Like,
I mean, I've come close. I've flirted with some German Macs, and
I have an East German Mac.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what Sam has, right, Danny?
I don't know.
Doesn't he have Makarovs? Or am I wrong?
I have at least 3.
Are Sam in the group?
Yeah, I think he has an East German one, doesn't he, that he got from his grandfather?
Oh, I don't know.
They're amazing pistols, and I love them. I actually carried mine. It was my first carry gun. It was a Bulgarian Makarov because at the time it was cheaper than an LCP. It's a pocket
Oh.
carrier.
All right, so this is the video that I probably get like it's the most controversial probably, and it's the ones where I get like the most like emotional comments, and it's on how I picked the best bolt action. It's that video
Oh, God, yeah.
where all I do is I just lay out my points, real simple, just objective truths to me, right? Like rimless is better than rimmed. Bolt handle being behind the receiver bridge is better than forward of the receiver bridge. Having a receiver bridge is better than no receiver.
Oh, what?
No receiver bridge.
Wait. Why was rimless better?
Rimless on a rifle?
Yeah, why was it better?
Well, in general, it's better.
I mean, for an army.
I mean, I think it's better for a rifle's magazine because you can tend to have like a double stacked flush fitting magazine. You don't need to incorporate something like an interrupter in your rifle to fix any future issues. Which that's another thing. Like whenever people talk about like a Mosin can't jam because it has an interrupter, it's like, well, why did my Mosin get rim lock if there's an interrupter? Anywho, not to get into that, but to me, there's just certain things that are just like truth, like objectively truths, like that.
Yeah, like how rimmed ammo is better.
Yeah, rimmed, yeah, or rimless is better than rimmed.
To be fair, it goes back to the Mosin. That's why the Russians went with a rimmed round, because the whole thing started around having a single shot rifle, and then they just slapped the magazine on later. So they're just like, okay, single shot rifle, best ammo, rimmed, and they're not wrong. It has an inherent gas check to it, so if you don't have to worry about the magazine and you don't have to worry about machine guns or anything else, yeah, just go rimmed.
Yeah, for a single shot.
For
Yeah,
a single shot, yeah.
Well, they have single shot bolt actions.
but if you're gonna go into a military, which is then going to be using more than just single shots,
So this is the best military bolt action rifle.
and then it's how I pick the best bolt action is just I don't know if you heard me say that's the name of the video, but it's
that's a broad category.
yeah. Well, if you watch, you'd kind of see like what I said. It's like these are things to me that, in my opinion, make the best features for a bolt action.
Military
Whereas,
bolt action.
well, sort of, yeah. I guess a lot of the things that I mentioned in it could be best applicable, to a military. But like to me, as like a collector or shooter, I also like them. Like one of the things is side slung. Like I think that a side slung rifle is better. I think I didn't say that this is objective. I think I kind of went into more like subjective or like opinions, but I said like I think a side slung rifle is better than an underslung rifle, particularly because of how it's carried around. When you carry it, and I don't know if you've carried a rifle around for like hours, like hours and hours, but it really gives you a sense of like how a gun feels, especially when you carry it around with the original sling. You can be like, oh, this sling is too small, the strap is too skinny, or whatever. Or like, if you had if you carried around like a French, like the Moss 36 sling, it's nice and thick. Like it's a really wide, I guess not thick, but it is kind of thick, but like a nice wide strap to kind of to support it. It's a great sling system. So like I think like the French and Swiss and Italian sort of side sling system is probably like the best side sling system. But in the video, I just go through it and I just basically say like, hey, if a rifle is the barrel can't be any longer than like 24 inches, because any longer than that, it's just you just kind of, it's extra length and everything.
24 sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I know it's a lot, but a lot of people were even arguing that 24 was too short of a cutoff because it cut off a lot of people's favorite guns. So then like my point is that like I'm sort of defining the parameters and then seeing what guns fall in there, where people were sort of like, this is my favorite gun, and then they were painting a target around it, sort of thing. So like a 1917 and the K31, they both have barrels longer than 24 inches. So those guns were excluded, even though they're great guns. So I go through the points. I think I got down to, I don't know if I included 6.5 as well, but 6.5 or 7 millimeter. I think 7 millimeter is probably like the best all around, like round
for
like
people hunting.
For people hunting.
People hunting.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm trying to understand the parameters. I'm just making sure I'm caught up here.
Yeah.
Also,
I mean,
May came in and I got distracted.
Oh.
Because you're supposed to be working, right, Othais?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she came in, she just came in for the air service rifle, and I was just like, oh, what you doing? She's like, we never weighed this. And I went, we didn't? And that completely distracted me. Because I just realized I never weighed the air service rifle, and that's...
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, 3 pounds.
Less stock, but extra magazine.
Extra bullets,
So,
Yeah, well, I mean, with the ammo in it, no hope in hell, but is the magazine enough to make up for the wood and the bayonet lug and everything?
But the balance is a lot better, though.
We're going to find out.
Yeah.
I think balance, I would take a gun that was slightly heavier with better balance, I think, over slightly lighter and worse balance. Because less weight out front, like I was saying before with the G41.
Yeah.
Like
God, that tips you forward.
Yeah.
It makes you
So-
tired, too.
What else were people complaining about? What'd you pick as your best bolt action rifle?
In the video, I think I said the Chilean 1935, which now I would say the Brazilian 1935. I think is the best.
What's the
Hell,
difference?
Yeah, I'm like,
So,
I think I know.
Neither one of those have dust covers.
No, neither they don't.
Yeah,
And
I do.
neither one of them have windage.
Yeah, no windage.
Wait, neither one of those have flashlights.
They do
Yeah.
have bayonet lugs, though.
Yeah, so they have a built-in front sight protector, which I think the Chilean and Brazilian 1935 front sight protectors are like probably the best among the Mausers, because it's pretty much just a copy of the K11 and the Swiss carbine front sight protector. So I really like that style, and I think it's better than like the clamp-on styles, like the K98K, like the hooded ones, and even like the little VZ24 front sight protectors. Any like little cheap stamped ones, like they're okay, but I don't think it's quite as good as like a built-in one. And it's got the length. I think it's like a 22 inch barrel, something like that. 7 millimeter. They're both 7 millimeter. The best millimeter.
Are they ring of steel guns?
What'd you say?
Are they ring of steel guns? I don't know if they're ring of steel guns.
I don't know what that is.
Some of the export guns ended up with the Serbian style ring of steel, which means the better supported case head.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know.
You have to look in there to see, because you can see it. If you ever look at a Serbian gun, you'll see it compared to like a regular one.
Yeah, I remember
Because
that.
It doesn't have that Mauser unsupported case head stuff. So like you'll see the like a big letter C shape, I guess. And then what else? I forgot the other thing that I was thinking. It's gone now.
I know they're right behind him, and I can hear him going to look.
Is he going to look?
No, I'm just like looking across the room.
You can't
I'm
look
not-
across the room. The bolts are in them.
I'm not. I don't touch guns if I've been drinking, so I just sort of look.
This is why you shouldn't leave them all loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to ask Tom before he left what he was drinking. So we're all. I think Tom drinks whiskey or something. I was drinking a Scotch, 12-year-old Scotch, Macallan Scotch.
So you went with the Mauser, huh?
Danny's pretty biased.
Sounds like it.
Obvious.
The obvious answer for best bolt action ever made is the Arisaka.
That's Mauser like.
Yeah, it's.
Wait, hold on. Othais, which one?
The one in 7mm. You can get a 7mm Arisaka.
I would love to get one of those, man. I've seen them, but
That's
They
the
don't come up too
Mexican one,
often.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mexican. That would be a cool one to have.
I forgot about the Mexican one.
Yep. You're gonna have one. That's the one to have.
Not the one in 8x52R Siamese?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 7mm on that.
Hey, did you know? You can rebarrel a Siamese into 4570.
Friggin' hell, Danny. You still... I get comments on that every time. Every time I post one of those Siamese Mausers, I've seen these in 4570. God damn it, guys.
Oh man, yeah.
Is that on your list?
Of what? Shit I don't like to hear.
Conversions.
Oh, no. God damn it,
No,
no.
only legit. Yeah, military conversions. Yeah.
That triggers me
So
almost
looking-
as much as shellac does.
So looking at the Mexican Arisaka, looks like they had some carbines too, but they're mostly long rifles. I guess the carbine would sort of fit, but I can't see the sling. So it's got to be, or at least I prefer, side slung front sight protector. I think is key. It doesn't look like Mexican Arisakas have a front sight protector. Yeah, it follows the early 38 pattern where there's no.
It has the dust cover though, right?
Some of them do in these pictures. Yeah.
Best rifle, Madsen 47.
Oh yeah. So in my objective sort of truths, right? I put front locking lugs are better than rear locking lugs.
So the Enfield fanboys are mad.
Not just them, but the Moss guys too.
Yep, Moss guys too.
Yep.
I mean, the Moss is a more rigid receiver, at least.
Yeah. Which, like, at least the Moss was created. Yeah, they're like, yeah, we want rear locking lugs, but they knew that it was a smokeless, like, high pressure round. It wasn't like a black powder gun that eventually just got turned into a high pressure smokeless. So.
What were your other criteria? Did you have any other?
Yeah. Turn down bolt handle.
Boo.
Bolt. Yeah, I know you like straight bolts, Othais.
Same here.
Yeah. I haven't. So
It depends. It really depends on the conditions. There's just times when you're just like, I could beat it open. 9 times out of 10, curved is better. Well, depending on where it puts your hand. But man,
Yeah.
I've been in some situations where I've just been like, it'd be real nice if I could just hit this against the friggin' wall a lot easier.
Yeah, even shooting like more rough, like K98Ks and Turk and stuff like that, getting stuck. I've always just been able to like muscle a bent bolt open. So I don't know like how important the straight bolt like that would be like for me for shooting, not terrible ammo that was made by a guy in a market somewhere. But I showed in the video, like if you aim, and I do this, you aim straight at the camera and then you kind of like pretend like you're working the bolt on a straight bolt handle and like follow the kind of like the path that your hand makes. And it kind of goes up and all the way around, or, from the side all the way up and then back kind of down all the way around, where if you do that same sort of motion with the bent bolt handle, your hand just kind of goes up and down. So I think the angle of it is, a bent bolt handle is much better for if you're keeping the rifle to your shoulder while reloading. If you're putting the gun down next to you and, reloading, like, working the bolt when the gun is kind of at your hip, then a straight bolt like kind of feels a little bit better doing that. But if you're like fast firing from the shoulder, I think is when a bent bolt really shines. It does allow you like faster shots, and it's just sort of better ergonomically.
So U.S. Crag #1.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a receiver bridge is better than no receiver bridge on a gun.
Yeah, but you have to have a rear aperture sight.
Yeah, and that's another thing where like I understand that like the majority of people would say that a rear aperture sight is better, but to me, the way I've used them like hunting, I don't know.
Wait. We went from military to hunting. What's going on now?
Well, similar concept where you're kind of quickly
No, human
aiming.
is the most dangerous game.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so, like, boar hunting is the thing that I really like about boar hunting versus like deer hunting
Squeak.
is the fact that like
Squeaka. You guys hear that? You hear that squeaking?
I think he's backing up.
It sounds like somebody's got a little dolly out. Maybe they're moving the goalposts.
Oh yeah,
Just moving them along.
I'm gonna use that. So you know,
Good, Danny.
I'm stealing that. That was funny.
So it's just in my experience in hog hunting pretty much is where
Right,
like
so we have to keep the
'cause I
bayonet
used M1.
for pig cavalry.
I didn't even mention the bayonet at all and the
Pokey or stabby?
I've
Slicey or
never
pokey? Are we doing slicey or pokey?
I've never
bayonet?
that's one of my everyone calls like bayonets a pig sticker. I don't even know where that came from.
Those stick pigs
But I don't get like what situation
over the fire.
using as okay.
Did you not read Lord of the Flies?
I just saw the movie.
I hope that scene's not in the movie. I've never seen the movie.
Oh God, that book in a movie form would be a nightmare.
So anywho, the sights I'm like I get objectively with the rear aperture sight, you have like a longer sight radius, except when it comes to like a Type 99.
We also have a more natural one for the people that you recruit. Aperture sight training is a lot easier on new recruits.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I've done like accurate shooting with both, so I understand like the pros and cons of both.
Yeah, but you're not illiterate.
Sometimes I like some.
You're not a potato farmer.
Yeah, I have a buddy. He's a Marine. He's my best friend. He breaks things.
Yeah, I got one of them too.
You can't make it complicated. Like align two things. What are you high? Look through the circle. Point at the thing.
Yeah. So, anywho, I don't even think it was part of the. I don't think it was like it came down to it because I'm trying to think of a gun that met the criteria that has a rear aperture sight on it.
It's like 923A3.
I think the barrel's too long.
Have you ever shot the Madsen 47? Because it has technically an aperture sight. But God,
Yeah, it's weird.
It's super awful. It is the worst. Like, how could you make it worse than just... I know what we'll do. We'll take these two sighting systems and combine them for the worst of both.
I was really confused the first time I shot my Type 99 for that reason, because it's a round rear sight and a triangle front sight. It was really odd to me.
It's like, what's the Steyr does those handguns that have the triangle sights?
Oh yeah, they're.
I have like such a love-hate relationship with those sights.
Did you really only eliminate the K31 because of barrel length?
No,
I think it had to do with caliber.
It's not turned down.
Straight pull.
Yes, I know, but it's not turned down, which is one of his things that he wanted to have.
He wants his trigger finger to be near the trigger.
Yes.
You know what? I've never even thought of that when it comes to turn down bolts. Because to me, exactly where the bolt handle goes doesn't seem to be like a big.
Wait, why were you choosing turn down bolts then?
For the reasons that I said before about when it comes to shoulder firing, mostly. I don't like it sticking out as well. It kind of goes along with like carrying around a gun. Like I like a side sling and turn down bolt if you're going to carry it around a lot. And then also firing from the shoulder and keeping. I think it has to do with keeping the gun at the shoulder. If you're looking down the sights, firing and keeping.
Oh, you mean
the
not
gun
having a wing up over? Okay, I get it.
Yeah, I think that a straight bolt is very hard to keep at. It's doable. Like I've done it, in videos and stuff. But it's just not as good as keeping it at the shoulder. If you're lowering him to the hip and doing it that way, yeah. But so that's probably the main reason. I think it's just more ergonomic for shooting it, and keeping it at the shoulder. I think is probably the better way.
Why don't you go with 3340 then?
I think I eliminated stuff. God, I need to rewatch this video. I think I eliminated stuff over 7mm. I think I was just kind of like, after you increase the diameter past 7mm, you're kind of getting like
tiny gun, big boom, ouchie shoulder. Gotcha.
I will be right back. 1 second.
Okay, it's sort of one of those things where it's like, what are you gaining for the extra recoil and extra boom and everything
I
like
understand.
that? So, but I mentioned all this just to say that the comments on that video is probably the best, like the most emotional,
Most
and everything.
angry, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not even your highest viewed video. Like, it's not even in the top 10.
Yeah, no, just 32,000 views. It's not up there. Oh, and
Yeah,
I do
it's not
call
even in
out
the first 4 rows of your most viewed videos.
Yeah,
Some of your old stuff is up there higher, like your review of the Mac 90 AK-47.
yeah, that was back before we were Milsurp World. Back when I was just North Florida gun guy.
Remember when you changed the name and suddenly some of your videos came off of being an issue?
Yeah, it does. I
Remember
think
that?
it does help that. I don't remember what video it was.
I don't know. You were like these. I had like you remember you telling me like I had like 3 or 4 videos that were not be able to be monetized, and they had been in review for like years, and then you changed the name to Milsurp World, and they suddenly became okay to be monetized.
Oh yeah, I forgot how many years I went without even actually being able to monetize the channel. Dude, it was so hard to get the channel monetized. I probably missed a lot of. I think most. Like my M1 tips and tricks video that has over 1 million views, most of that was before the channel was monetized, so I didn't get any of that. And it's just like, geez, like how much was that? That I guess just the YouTubes got to keep. Okay, I'm gonna find some good comments here.
I need to get going soon. So
Oh, okay, it is. Yeah, it is
Jared.
10:30. I forgot about you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 11:30 here.
Oh yeah, that East Coast life time. Okay, well.
Are we waiting for Othais to come back so we just don't leave him here?
I don't know. I don't know.
It just comes back and we're all gone.
This is like, what the heck happened?
The shit.
What do I do?
We're about ready to head out, Othais. So
Oh,
we were just
goodbye.
discussing whether or not
Didn't
just to
wanna leave
leave you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Oh no, it's May.
Hey,
oh,
May.
Shit.
Yeah.
Smoke bomb.
And he disappears. All right, you want me to sign us off, Danny?
Yeah.
All right. Thank everybody for coming. It's just me and Danny and Jared left at this point. But thank you, Tom and Othais, for joining us, and May at the very end there. Had a good discussion about all kinds of random stuff today. Hopefully everybody follows us. Follow us on... Danny has an Instagram, right?
Yeah.
On YouTube, like and subscribe and comment for our algorithms. And if you would like to be on the podcast, you can join as a member of our Patreon, right, Danny?
Yep. We select. Yeah, I started doing that, selecting people from Patreon, because legit, it's only because of the people that contribute money on Patreon that pay to keep this podcast up.
Yes.
So as a thank you, it's all you got to do is you have to be a Patreon member for like a little while before, and you have to get on the list, and then you can come on the show.
Oh, and we do accept everyone, but you need to have a mic that doesn't sound like you're speaking through a tin can.
Yeah, a decent microphone is like the only requirement.
I know Tom was worried about his mic, and his didn't sound
he sounded
bad.
good.
He sounded fine,
sounded good.
but that is a thing that we need to figure out, obviously, before we start a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, we did run into issues with crap, I can't remember his name.
Our very early podcasts. I know I didn't.
No,
my
it
stuff
wasn't
didn't
you
sound very good.
necessarily, but it was Who's the guy in Italy?
Oh, Maro.
Morrow, yeah.
Yeah.
His mic was awful. Cutting in and out.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Cool for him to be on, but yeah.
Yeah, he was great. He's got great information and all kinds of cool stuff, but like, yeah, like okay, anyway. So everybody, thank you for coming and thank you for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, y'all.
See ya.